Are you getting sound now?
I'm just seeing if I'm getting okay, I'm not getting anything out of the fans currently.
I think it is as well, so I've just turned Phantom on.
No extra switches or anything.
Okay, I've now got Kim. Okay, so
go back to OBS and have a look. Yeah, you're getting sound.
Cool. Right, I'm going to send around an audio link and we'll see if anyone can get there. Oh, I can hear it on the live stream, sorry, yeah. It's a bit nasty.
No, we got mono, we want them both on input 2 Ls, you just get left, or we just get right, whichever.
No, you don't. So, because we're using input 1 and input 1 only, yes, you're right, sorry, I forget on this one. On Panasonic cameras, it's stupid, you need it in input 2. I've moved over.
And then you shouldn't have mono.
Just go back to OBS, Tom, for a sec.
No,
yeah.
Joe, after I spilled green soup down, I thought I'd be a special guest.
No.
Oh no!
You've not locked it in, Tom.
Don't say!
Fell out.
Isn't this the expensive one?
Have they put the wrong fucking...
Now I've only got a PDF of my final report. I don't have the actual version.
Why did you not save the doc?
Is this your office?
Is it stuck now?
No, I haven't done that. This is my...
Drag system. Is that how it slows down if it goes too fast?
I only have a PDF of.
You can get PDF to word converters. They're dodgy, but you can.
Where did I... Did I not print loads of stuff off?
I think that's the live stream done.
You didn't walk in with it.
By now.
It zoomed in so far.
14:49 AM.
You are big.
And then I went back to when I first got that result, but I can't last. Do you know what they said the weight was?
Do you know what we should do at the start of AGM?
No.
Everyone stands up as a pledge to the SU to say they will not make this meeting go on too long. Don't stress me out.
Probably about right.
Thank you guys for sorting that out, that's cool. I know.
Really, I think I'm trying to look down there. It's in the same place.
Surely it's not filling the screen.
So, Jamie, how's good the design project? Submitted.
It's not going well, but there's
I love the icon there.
Just 5 minutes. Mechend did a massive deadline today as well. Just over 5 minutes before the deadline, the fire alarm.
when we were in the middle of printing.
Everyone was in the middle of printing.
Top before West South.
Before we start, and the building was evacuated. And it was like,
Wow.
It was the slowest walk down the stairs I've ever had with report in hand with 5 minutes to hand in.
That's
As
how you
everyone
know.
goes carefully because the fire alarm's going on.
Yeah, it was
It's
like,
the
well,
right thing to do, it's very safe.
well, no, but I was a bit like that because so what if I burned to death? It's probably preferable.
To what? Oh yeah.
To that degree.
Not fun, it's what's first.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
I'm in a room with Backstage. I'm going to lock my laptop. Yeah. And put my things on. You know Windows L probably does that. Windows what? Windows L. Windows L? What's that? To lock. It used to on Windows.
Yeah, it did on Windows 10.
Yeah, it does. Windows key out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Right there.
Jamie?
Who's calling now? Henry, what? Yes.
There's no shortcut for shutdown except the shutdown button.
Good.
I guess that's a good one.
Tim's printed his off.
But you can press start X and then press U then S.
I like
Or do you
how
wanna
the
do
preview of
Start X, then
the
use
live
music.
stream is Benham's face.
Oh, is that what the live
It's,
stream
it's
is?
taken the preview as
Like,
your
go
face
to
looking
the
very
next
nonplussed.
I thought you could pick the preview if you had like 5 subscribers or something.
Oh, I haven't tried to.
Yeah, but I don't know on live stream, you just probably take the first 10 seconds and just pick up the frame.
How do you find it? Or is it not public?
It's quite funny.
It's unlisted so that it doesn't get automatically notified to anyone who is subscribed to us.
All
Probably
23 of
email
us.
it to people.
Yeah, which one's three of them?
All three of them who are definitely not Backstage members, right?
I put it on BTS through snaps as well.
Okay, I don't have Snapchat. So
There is a BTS School Snaps.
You put swipe up to join the fun. Yeah, that's what the cool kids do.
Oh, great.
What the?
I'm just gonna stick that there while
Are you trying to
If
sort
we
of
could
print
have
on
this
your
year's
laptop?
meeting be an exact copy of
No,
last
it
year's
just
meeting,
keeps
that would really
appearing for no apparent reason. I do not understand.
Ah,
They've all the same
go into
people
devices
running
and
for-
printers,
and people, if people
right-click
could
on
leave
it,
the same
and
time
then
they did
disable
this time.
notifications.
That's probably a good idea.
Yeah, because you will get all manner of
But
notifications.
the thing is, this is the first time he's done it since I've had it on this laptop, which has been about a year.
But is this the first time you've been back to campus with it installed?
Yeah, no, it isn't. I've been back to campus a couple of times. Not that long times. It's weird.
What did you get?
Pepperoni. Apparently the plus means
Those
plus.
are MacBooks.
Surprise me.
Fine.
No, I know. No, I think it's the radiator. Okay.
I think it's actually because Dan's printing on it and it's there for sending me notifications. It's probably the first time I've been back to campus and someone is printing on it and I've had my laptop so long.
Jamie, I like how on your report you have blanked out the events that you're yet to actually.
Yeah, do you know why? Do you know what they are? A class from first year, which won't go away.
Why don't you just tick it as done?
I've just marked one off as done.
I don't know, those kind of class. Oh no, because one of them is like from the rules.
That one's full.
So that's because there were 2 10s.
How was that?
So the other 10 did all of it. For some reason.
Just tick it as done. Just it's just done. Just say it's done.
I thought I had. Well, if you hadn't, so I could have done it.
I mean, that's what I did. I logged in and was like, there's too many things.
Well, the issue is, I raised this as an issue with Ben, is if you do like all the scores, like I do, get quite tedious.
Yeah, but but you shouldn't set yourself to the event manager.
Oh, yeah, Jamie.
Just set yourself as
Yeah.
crew.
Yeah, when I went through and was counting
Let me
managers,
do
I
it.
took you off of your anyway because I thought your front page is going to be like this at this point. And I thought we might as well leave it so Ben can tick these ones without you.
Oh, is that why they don't come up?
Yeah.
Ah,
So I
I
left you as
see.
crew, but I took you off of that manager so you don't get pestered by that.
Yeah. Well, I did submit a event report and risk assessment 1 week because I thought it'd go to Polly, but apparently it doesn't. Acronyms. Oh, LJ Hugs messaged me.
I want to move.
What's that?
Oh, I can tell us.
Oh, boys! Thank you. See, you've got all figures. I haven't done that yet. I'm not going to be able to.
Go.
The information I want on the website isn't readily available. So.
Sorry, Tim. Ben M's is better.
I mean, mine was made in 30 seconds, so
What is an officer report?
Yeah, still better.
I feel like that's to be expected.
Yo.
Hello. Secretary's report.
Good job I didn't get that on my handwritten
I'm
report.
having trouble distinguishing all these shades of grey.
Yeah, well, I meant to do it in colour, and then it turns out that the printer wasn't a colour printer.
Did you not know the old pictures in colour? Did you not know the old pictures in colour?
No, not that one. Thank you. There's one with
So
chemical.
you had a long day.
I have. I've been
Yeah,
deciding
that's
business
doing
roles,
it now.
and I've actually
How are
managed
you
to do
only
it.
just doing business
Ben,
roles?
how
be
am I
honest,
meant
we
to
do
tell
everything differently.
what square they relate to? Because
Have you handed in both of you? Have you slept?
I'm on 6 hours sleep since Monday.
I've had, yeah, I'm a little bit more, I'm like 7 now.
Is it though?
Yeah,
You're going to get through score?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chap, am I going to get through school?
It's very
Is this
simple
even
to
a
get
question?
You're right though, It is
So what I'm saying is
dangerous
it's in
level
black
of
and
sleep.
white with varying levels of
Driving
black.
back. Driving
Okay,
know
so
the
those
world.
No, it's
notifications,
fine.
Careful, he could be carrying nerve agent on him.
The lines are slightly.
Yeah, I mean, that's just my secret pastime, right?
It's the Russian spy.
When's Freshers Week normally? What weekend? Is the end last week?
October, Joe.
Is it October?
Well,
No,
last
last
week
week.
of
Last week of
September.
September.
Hey Joe, have you seen a time of work's coming out?
No. Go through it.
You got work tomorrow?
Got half an
Half days the thing. I can't even think of words that I'm trying to say, but they are the thing.
Right, let's preempt the minutes. Tom, are you giving a presentation?
Oh, yeah?
Excellent.
We're going to
Is
find out
anyone
who's
else
approved the
giving a
most events.
presentation? Or just you are? Then we'll...
Is the power only in the middle?
Yeah.
One
To be
here.
fair, we plugged it in, so
Well,
we
you've
get to
got
use it.
one there, and there's one on your feet as well.
One down here.
And there's a chair.
Is someone on there?
No, sorry, that's just mine.
May I squeeze in?
Oh.
Ah!
Jamie,
Most
Yeah.
people don't
do I have to give a presentation?
No, you don't.
In that case, I'm not giving a presentation.
I'm trying to do the minutes now because I won't be able to keep up.
We're talking about alcohol as well.
Is anyone else giving a presentation?
I need alcohol.
Dan Bucket, won't you? Questions? Oh, I should read it.
He takes his AGM seriously.
Genuinely, allowing most minutes. Would it be too much to ask for anyone to have scissors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got scissors
We'll vote
in
on
my
it.
mouth.
They're giving it to you really quick. Give them to me.
Right, I'm going to give my
Bingo, everyone!
Oh, yeah.
One for you. One for you if you're going to play.
One of them, Jamie falls asleep. Why have I got two blank spaces?
Yeah, I've got one blank space.
This is the way it came out.
Lazy.
Haha! Keep it and I'll replace it.
Can I fill it in?
What do you mean? Yeah, fill it in.
Oh, the blank space is to fill yourself.
Cool, Jamie mentioned score. Dan's already done it.
I tell you to do it if they later.
I've already done that twice.
When does it start? Because you only have entries.
I don't think the
Not now.
mechanism can do it. I don't think you'll speak to the
You know the world can see.
How do you fancy it?
I've got high school fucking music. Oh my god.
I don't think I can do the white laser.
What's this?
I'll fix the phone.
I'm not entirely sure.
If it's still stuff, it's only the right laser.
Shade is like when you
If it's sheet stuff, you could probably do it. But this is a shit mechanic department. Mate, I
Yeah,
went
I
with
know.
them to 0.2 mil steel.
I know, I was with you, mate.
Are they like Joker cards?
It's, yeah, I personally don't think we'll have the time to do it as well. It's worth asking.
Jamie, do you want some photogenic lectures?
filling your own.
All of this shit.
It doesn't meant to come out like that.
To be honest, I would half suggest to suggest Henry hot wires it. It's
Fill it
really
in
fun.
when someone says it.
That's going to different.
Is the chair on time?
I don't know.
He's
You've got 6 minutes.
He's printing stuff off for people. Good. He's being a good boy.
Two legs.
Adam,
Oh my god.
Joe's left the room. So after you.
there. Yeah.
More lots of food there.
Hello, how are you? Sorry.
Where can the cake be this
I've made space here for you.
Just here.
Put it on this table here.
Yeah, I think over here.
Someone has to provide a knife to use it, so. They're all thankfully alive.
No,
I think I should have a whole cake to myself, then I don't need a knife.
Jude,
Yeah.
are you able to send me through all the questions apart from my ones so I can put them in the minutes? To help speed things up or not?
Bingo.
Just saw the share ready.
I don't know how you, if you've got them in Google Doc or something.
It's the Christmas meal. You won't be wearing a jacket to take off, so all the guys are going to boil over.
Emily's drinking.
I'll wear a blazer.
I'll hold you to that.
Adelaide.
I'm going to drink it.
Skull.
On the other hand, it would also mean I
Angel
don't
skull.
want to sit down.
Skull. What was that?
I've got, if I want to drink, I've got to have one early.
I really can't.
What store?
Cool. We'll go with yes.
Is there anything in the Constitution saying you can't be at AGM drunk?
In my group,
They better not be.
It's a tradition to drink.
So say you,
I've got
as safety officer, do you have a safety specific role for AGM?
No.
That's probably why you're.
Oh, I
am now ready for
Who's the event
Well, technically it should be Jamie.
No, it's not.
I have this
On the website, there's no event manager.
There's no event manager, and therefore I can't ask the event manager permission, so therefore I have my own petition.
That I don't understand.
Except there's a
Mark,
blanket policy.
There's no way my Gmail possibly.
1 unit per hour, it's a safety critical role. If the fire alarm goes off, it's not my job to get it done. But 1.
It's set.
1.4.
Have I got the
Sorry,
secretary support?
No,
You can't have
it
no
was
more
ahead
than
of
within 1 hour.
Oh no, I've got the secretary one.
Clicked open and now
I've got, hold on, I've got the treasurer one, the secretary one,
Yeah.
the E&S one. Are there any more?
Not the minute.
I have a bottle of everyone.
Chair is
speed.
There's like better milk bottles.
It's the difficulty when you do a pie chart, black and white one.
Yeah.
It's annoying because I paid for the number as well.
Is it basically just around the clock?
Wait, so you paid for colour printing and it didn't print on colour?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's going around from
Well, it's the same report as last year.
Yeah, I thought it looked similar.
Actually, that doesn't make sense.
You can kind of see the difference in some of them. We have had way less income this year.
But we don't seem to need it that much.
Why is that? Which events have gone?
Company.
It will all be explained in the officer presentation.
Ah.
All Lego, isn't it?
We have lots of company.
Just
Ooh,
noting.
what is a shop?
Just noting. Just noting, everyone. My year when we have most income.
When we search for numbers.
When the crew were the
No,
most right.
Angel, it was down to the treasurer because before me, Mr. Dunn was putting it all in the Antigua fund, and evidently for the past 2 years, Mr. Emery's been putting it in his new car fund. I was legit.
Sorry. Fuck's sake. That's going to sit in my head all night.
Head stretch will take me.
Duets, you got a big
You know, like the check out.
Thank you very much.
Oh, if people would ask me the same questions as last year, social secretary, no. Joe. That's when it's not.
Dan, you crap person.
What?
I still don't get how we can drive.
Is it?
I have 2
Blank. One blank should be left blank. Another blank should be your own idea. I've decided because it
really
came
well.
up.
No,
the middle one should always be blank.
Maybe she's giving you more money or wants money back off you.
We didn't even set. We didn't pre-set up.
I wonder what the plug was.
I'll leave it.
I mean, ADM started on time was
I went in there yesterday whilst we were in the middle of rehearsals and to get some food for Kira and me. And went in and said what's the waiting phase? An hour and 15 minutes.
yeah.
Well, usually when the plug quiz is on, it's about 30 to 45 minutes, which but I was hour and 45, I was like, what? And apparently it's because there was a footnote as well.
That's stuck in my head. What do you mean? That song. What? The breaking free is High School Musical. Good. Tone.
That means I can't pick my notes.
It is just the original is stuck in my head at the moment. So this is on the way down. On the way back home. What? You going? Oh, you going out?
Yeah.
What?
He's going to post tonight.
They've got someone I know has booked out. Apparently.
Yeah.
When you say booked out clothes,
That's what they said.
How? You mean that you book
Right,
tables?
so Ben is asking.
I didn't ask any
about
questions
text
other than that.
because there are some people asking if they can do open day, which finishes at 4 on Wednesday.
All I know is I don't have to pay.
And Joe is
Yeah, as long as you go for
whether
11.
the cast.
Oh, you get free entry if
on
you've
the
got
open day,
Yeah,
which is the
that's it. I
Wednesday,
don't, that must be.
which finishes at 4.
Well, it's totally just because his tour manager was
Yeah,
really.
you know, if you go interpose in the first room, there's like loads of like booths. You can book a little package.
Gives us 6 hours.
Unergonomic.
6 hours total.
Yeah.
Like, of
What
all
time
the
do we have
DJs,
to
he was the least ergonomic.
No idea.
I've ever seen.
What time do we get in the on the Wednesday?
I was just told to turn up.
Over.
And then that'll be an hour 3 till 4.
Sure.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, even if you manage to get 6 hours, an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I had that for lunch.
Hey, Ollie. Bingo.
Yeah.
Bingo. 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 As in,
You're
not
actual bingo.
no, I'm not prematurely yelling bingo.
Are there prizes for lying?
Right.
More than late.
Most things are here, so I'll quickly run through this. Everyone! Yo! People who get a line in bingo win this lovely jar of tin of spaghetti hoops. Lock off. The first person to get a full house of bingo gets the premium. So we got a lot up for grabs today, okay? So game faces on everyone.
I see the budget was running low when it came to buying
Jamie, proposal on Wednesday is for private hire to help anyone that wants it.
It's playing a YouTube.
Yeah, you can hire it. You can
So
hire
what
it.
does actually have a whole club?
Somebody playing a game.
At full speed.
Yeah, full speed, 1%. They wanted to one time.
Yeah, hit number 2.
Darn you.
We're on the line controller.
Is my pen lid still in that lecture? So I'm quite angry about it.
Henry, on the Wednesday,
number 2 is
screen
what
off.
time do we get in?
I might have
What time do people be ready by today?
Wow.
3 at the latest?
Two, but if you push the up button, then it only turns these ones up. It doesn't turn the board. What?
That's because the board lights didn't on. So these lights go off completely. No, they don't.
But they're big. Yeah, so what's that doing?
Bear in mind, we could be doing the
Bed.
Like 4 people.
Now they loaded it up, I was still looking at the camera. So by the time with that, I was staring myself. Going, right. Why should I listen to you? She speaks all the time. No. Why should I send you that? Hey?
I'm going to be on the line.
Amazing! Amazing! Oh, pop-out chat, but I don't want to have
I'm not surprised.
You're looking at the budget. You were considering the budget.
No.
It was one of the two.
I think he did it in training.
Either way,
Is anyone watching on the feed?
Yeah, I think they did it like live.
How many people watching?
15 people on the feed.
Yeah, how many are in this room?
Yeah, I was going to say.
Don't forget to subscribe, buy merch.
Like, follow, subscribe, follow our merch.
If you like what you see, click the thumbs up. If you don't, you know what to do.
This AGM is sponsored by Squarespace.
Brought to you by Audible.
You tried Harry's Razors.
Oh, we've got Squarespace have that.
Yeah, we haven't got proper
training.
mindset.
The first one will be interesting. It's asking for verification on every single thing today.
I've had that. It's so
That is my life.
Right.
Thank you, Hugh.
No problem.
Well, I mean, Henry, everyone basically knows you're terrible.
Hello. Glad you could make
Who's watching the feed that isn't in this room?
Me. Me.
I'm trying to find out how you can see the comments on the feed.
I mean, I'm very sure that the appropriate way to do that is to type in this video as well, when it isn't.
It's in folder as well. Mine, then AGM, then 2017.
I appreciate you want to challenge a little bit.
That's free.
I wrote down a bit of
Well, if you look at the document that...
Well, I can just prod you with what we need to do. How's that? Where's bullet points?
No, you need the proper remix of this, Joe.
This is the remix.
That's the wrong remix.
Well, which is the right remix? Yeah.
Nah, this is the remix you want, because it's got everything. Joe, turn that shit off.
I feel like I've turned this into chaos now. Oh.
Joe, hold on, just wait.
You went to that.
This is exactly the remix I was looking for.
Is it?
It's not the remix I was looking for. Sorry.
This is just an intro music, but I wouldn't be.
If
we're going to get copyright.
I was going to say, if we live stream on YouTube.
It's unlisted.
I'm just.
What are you playing, Joe?
Yours was close, but I believe this was only on SoundCloud.
Who's it by?
Tamsin Turnbull.
It's not the original song, though.
Just pitch.
This is from SoundCloud.
Anyway, sorry. I'm pre-warning you, Joe. I'm not to all yet. Right, come on, Jack. Stop.
Stop now.
Pause.
Right. Oh god, this is the slow pan. I need to point it out. Thank you all for coming this day. As I'm sure you know, are you there yet, Tom?
I'm not CTV.
Cheers, boy. As I'm sure you know, we have AGM normally once a year to go through improvements to the society and to hold our hustings. I believe, I'm waiting for Jamie's confirmation, but I believe this is set in two parts. We've got AGM with points to discuss, and then we'll do hustings afterwards.
Yeah.
Lovely. Where do we begin, Jamie?
We have 2 votes to get out of the way. First, we need to vote on allowing associate speaking rights.
So,
only associate you.
this vote is a proposal that we allow any associates in the room the right to speak. It's quite a simple vote: yes, no, or abstain. Does anyone not understand the vote?
If we don't make Hugh speak, can he speak as returning?
That's not what I asked, Tom. Does anyone not understand the vote? Lovely. In which case, then, should associates be granted speaking rights? All in favour?
Oh, hang on a second.
For reference, Jamie, if we know how many people in the room, you can just take the discount.
I don't know how many people in the room.
I thought you were supposed to be on this.
Oh, sorry.
And then everyone but Hugh's voted yes, right?
Hugh can't
We haven't given him voting rights yet.
Hugh can't vote.
Yeah, so everyone's voted Hugh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Noes and abstain. That'll be 0 and 0. Lovely, Hugh, you're allowed to do hustings later. Next votes.
The second vote I would like to suggest proposing, I don't know what the rule is on this, is allowing those watching the live stream to be eligible for votes that we made this evening.
I think what we did last year is we said if they have an obviously identifiable account, i.e. their name that we recognise them by.
Do you think it's fair to see students watching?
Oh, we need to do it. For reference, Rowan is not allowed to speak, he's not an associate. Okay, is there anyone on the live stream that doesn't have a really obvious name as to who they are?
2 people, and speaking, I've seen at least 5 identifiable people.
Lovely. If people want to identify themselves when they vote, if they've got a stupid name,
yeah,
then we can do that. Lovely. In which case, we shall have the second vote, and that will be, should we allow those watching the live stream, as long as they are members, to vote in any decisions made? It'll be yes, no, and abstain. Does anyone not understand the votes? Lovely. In which case, all in favour? Noes? And abstain. That'll be just Simon.
Some people didn't vote.
Well, it's too bad on them, isn't it? Cool. Right, next order of business.
Officer reports.
Officer reports. Where should we start? I'll go first then. Right. Has everyone had a chance to look at least briefly through all the officer reports, even if it's just a page flick and looking at the pretty figures? Yeah? Lovely. Okay, so mine, I think, unfortunately, is the longest. I'm sorry about that. I tried to get it on 2 pages, it just wasn't happening. So, overall, I'd say really strong year so far. Obviously, we've got 3 more months left to do, but let's keep on going. We've had some really good improvements. We've had some new events. Look at things like Lego, which we're hoping is a recurring event for next year. And we've tried some, should we say, unorthodox technical ideas. Some have worked, some haven't, but it's all a good idea. I want to briefly go over things that have gone well for the year. This is only things that I've been directly involved with. There have been numerous other good things throughout the year. I'm sure we'll get to those later. But going through then, we've got a new alt PA and new dimmers. So anyone who doesn't know, we now have a D&B series PA in the alt with 11 speakers, which is exciting. This combined with a donation from AV of a sound desk and control PC has made a modern, up-to-date and relatively competitive sound system. This combined with the replacement of the LD90s with chili dimmers has meant that we can actually do shows and not spend hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get it in a usable state. Rough costings for that was £27,000. AV relationships, so we've improving on what Will did last year. We've made great strides in improving that. Benefits include the alt PA and actually being able to use it. And more importantly, there's a potential for getting more free stuff off them. I'm very excited about that. And it's a very useful body of people to keep happy. We can borrow things for absolutely nothing, so that's a very good thing. Edge calendar system, so we've changed it slightly this year. We now apply the entire calendar at once instead of as 2 separate semesters. This is the advantage of the second semester being organised much, much earlier, and therefore the hope is that we can book in student shows before the Edge book in Science Week and whatever else. So this will hopefully improve allocation of space to students next year. I'm not sure it will, but I hope it will at least reduce conflicts. Drama Store, there's been exactly 0 word from estates on the Drama Store this year. I keep checking with Polly, but they've not mentioned a single thing, so as of now, we're just assuming it's still ours. I'm sure there'll be an update at some point when they restart plans to kick everyone out. But for now, we've moved back in, and we'll hopefully get some extra good use next year, assuming the states don't say anything. Phase 2 of the alt has started, so we've now gone through improvement suggestions, This is a list of about 100 improvements. Most have been approved or need more thinking about. Only a few got disregarded straight off, so actually overall a really good result. Some have been done already. Things like the new stage floor rating, not waiting. Stage floor rating, this combined hopefully with next year in the summer having a roof rating will mean that we can put more technically difficult and exciting touring shows on, and actually some more bigger ambitious sets, which will be very exciting for things like the bosom shows. So Alt very slowly improving. It will be several years before we're at the ideal state, but hopefully one day. I already mentioned the Alt ratings. This is very good. We need to finalise the paperwork with Polly and Paul, but otherwise this looks like it should be a permanent thing. Next, probably the second biggest win of the year, the Alumni Fund. We've just received indirectly, we've just been granted 2 Alumni Fund bids. We have ours, which is covering an overhaul of distro, power and dimming, meaning we finally get rid of the pulsars and Silver DB, replaced with shiny new dimmers, shiny new distro, and some cable, which is always a good thing. We've gone for Alpha Packs, which is slightly lighter, slightly smaller, more convenient for things like Clav Rooms, Guildhall, hopefully expanding the kind of events we can do with much less effort. The Bosoms bid, which I also wrote most of, has involved buying 4 new radio mic channels, including packs, and 28 new headsets for exclusive use in Bosom shows. It means we've now got a baseline of 12 channels of radio mic and just under 40 capsules to use each show, which is a brilliant thing because it means that even things like Encore, we can nearly mic the entire cast on headsets without having to change headset. It's a very exciting thing. That was just over £10,000 spending. The final couple of things, we're trying to improve our relationship with Bucks. We've made some inroads in that, but there's still a way to go, mostly because they just don't know who we are. We're working on it and we'll hopefully improve in the near future, aiming to get more access to Bucks patching within the alt to get around the fact that there's only one route to the top patch pogs. The workshop's nearly been finished redesigned. We've improved the storage greatly. There's now a dedicated design area where people can refine and discuss ideas. We've opened up the space much more, so there's much more space for painting, for building, and hopefully has reduced the clutter significantly. We reckon we've probably thrown away about nearly 2 skips worth of stuff out of there in the last year and a half. And finally, this mostly goes to Alex Babington, but we've approved and finished a new dance floor storage system made out of the old chair trolleys. It's brilliant, it's very heavy duty, and it means that we can actually get in the drape store without having to climb over everything and damage the dance floor. Overall, I'd say an excellent win. So those are the main achievements of the year. In terms of membership then, can you all see the graph? It's just about big enough. General trends suggest that we've had roughly the same amount of active members as in the past few years, although the dates don't go back as far as we'd like on that one. The overall number of members has gone down slightly, as has the number of freshers. Though it's interesting to note that, well, it's interesting to note that actually while the technical number of total freshers has gone down, I don't feel like it has in reality. This is based on whether freshers have done, is it 4 or 5 events?
Yeah, 3 or 4 events.
3 or 4 events this year so far. And I'd suggest that while technically on this measure we had more last year, the retention has been higher, given the number of freshers we had from last year. Membership's dropped a little bit, but it's fluctuated. I'd say we're much more similar to 2015-16 than last year. And the number of engineers is slowly declining, so we're clearly diversifying. Good job, guys. Final page. I thought I'd just print this out. Show off who does what. There's one Chem-Eng guy and one social and political sciences guy. Whoever you are, thank you for staying. Electrical engineering is still dominating everyone else. Mech-Eng following a close second. You might take us one day, don't worry. Yeah, so basically overall, thank you very much for making society what it is. All of you are responsible for having a fantastic year, and I hope that next year is even better. Thank you very much. Right. Should we go with
next?
PM? PM.
Yeah.
Report.
I can have a moment and get it.
Treasurer.
We've
got a PowerPoint for this one. He's put a lot of effort in, as I'm sure you're about to see.
I can't actually remember what I put on this PowerPoint, so
Well, it's stunning, whatever it
it's a
is.
surprise to both you and me.
I might have to personally contribute to one of these.
I mean,
Where's the picture of the car?
I can click, yeah.
So
Yeah, the money bag's a bit lighter. He's now got a mini. Just so
yeah, let's go to the next slide. Why not? Let's see what's there.
Ooh, transitions.
Oh, I don't like the logo.
Oh, there you go.
Difficult to see.
Shall I click next
Yeah,
again?
let's go with that. Okay, good.
Oh, we're going to be here
Here we
forever.
go. So, 2017-18 has been an interesting year. So we've seen a hit in the total number of events, which I'm sure Tom will talk about in his report. Largely, though, that's due to the loss of Coffee House, so that's quite a large proportion of our events, really. And a reduction in things like dry hires, like the little stuff that we don't really want to do, and external events. But despite that, we're going to end the year pretty strongly, hopefully, because of a large rollover from last year and a boosted SU budget this year. So the past few years we've experienced some exceptional income, which has allowed us to kind of splash out on some bigger purchases like the digital desks and some alumni funds this year, etc., etc. And in the coming years, as we kind of reduce the number of events that we do and potentially some of the less crap stuff that we don't really want to do, like sticking up bits of deck for trampolining, we may have to be a little bit more frugal with our spending, but it's fine. We'll be all right. Everything will be okay. So let's go through, see what. So yeah, said that. Probably still okay. Excellent. Yeah.
Outstanding. Right,
Okay,
next.
continue.
Can we send the right one to Mike today? Right.
What's next then? So I think next is production income. So, as I've said before, we've taken a bit of a hit this year, about 30%. Even though that's a drop from last year and the year before, if we look at the graph, you can see where we're kind of losing this kind of stuff. So less edge ops events, we had a couple of good years of that. Less dry hires, as I said, and basically the drop in Coffee House here, which is quite interesting to see. But really, if you date it back to, if you look on the report, to kind of the maybe 5 or 6 years ago, we're actually making about the same. So I think we've just kind of hit a peak and now we're back on the level. So it should be fine. Next one. There you go, that's what I just said. So we're kind of back on the old level there.
It's like Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
Except we're not working.
So continuing on, we can look at the percentage, which I know a lot of you can't because it's black and white. And there might be a colour one. Yeah, there you go. Thought about this. So yeah, this is looking at compared to last year. Income or streams of income has kind of changed quite a lot. So we're relying a bit more on the large events, a bit less on the dry hires and the SU events and that kind of thing. But the kind of shows, like 1, 2, 3 night shows, actually stays pretty similar throughout the years. So if we carry on again, and again, so this is just homing in on that chunk of dry hire there. So you can see this from this year, and compared to last year, we have lost basically half or 60-70% of the actual other dry hire stuff. So the only actual dry hire we're really doing anymore is trampolining and less of the shit little bits of 3 or 4 deck. And I think that is it.
What's the other on that chart?
Other?
On that last chart, yeah.
Oh, that's just other
That's just
income
all the
in
other
Uh,
general,
income.
so everything.
Oh, is this other? No, the other dry hire.
Other dry hire.
So that's like the associates, that kind of thing, I think.
Okay, it's larger than I expected.
Yeah, it is larger than you expect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh well. I'm sure it's something. And if anyone wants to see more in-depth details, then contact me. We'll end on some interesting facts and figures. So this time last year, we'd spent 19 grand with Enlightened, and this year, 27.5 grand. Well done, Enlightened's best customers.
Number one hire customer at Enlightened this year.
Jamie, TC says, can you fax him a bingo card?
It's Dan's job.
What else have we got then on here? Next one. Is there any more? Oh yeah, there you go. Top yellow formers. We've actually taken a hit from last year. We got no one over £1 grand this year, which is disappointing.
We normally have one.
Yeah, it was Ben Jones last
Normally
year.
it's in one yellow form.
So yeah, carry on. And then yeah, his kind of top clients. Bar's still repping it up there. IET there in second. Bearing in mind that's on like however many events it is.
Yeah.
30, 40 or whatever it is, and this is one event. And yeah, trampoline still up there as our best clients. I think that might be it.
Oh, hang on. That's it. Congrats.
There we go.
Right.
Mr. Duffel,
I guess so. Yeah.
you got a presentation?
I haven't got a presentation. I'm
Okay, you just present it.
Piece of paper.
No worries.
Can't get up the front.
This is when inevitably the live stream fails, you see. Cool. So as Ben said, the types of events we've done have changed a bit this year. We've done fewer staging events. We also had significantly fewer alt events. Are you going to drag up?
What do you want me to drag up?
Do you want to get up just this sheet?
Yeah,
so we have
sure,
just have charts up there.
Tom Boothall, Major Report,
Cool. Yeah, let's just look at that. So I don't have last year's there for comparison, but Edge events have dropped significantly this year. A lot of that's the alt events, so we've had fewer small alt events. But we've also had significantly fewer Western studio events as we've left more events over to Thom's freelance team, including things like quips and that sort of thing that we've traditionally done, which has accounted for a lot of the Edge drop, as well, of course, Edge Arts not putting on nearly as many events. Trampoline events have also gone down, but then we've made more money off things like Lego, which ultimately looks like a better route forwards as it's far more fun and also makes tons of money. Yeah, so we've gone down to only 2 Western studio events this year, which is a bit of a shame. Hopefully we're going to have some more in the second semester. But yeah, that's not looking too good, as it's quite a nice small space to work in, and really makes shows much simpler. We've had a few shows that would have been in there shifted over to the old in semester 1, so hopefully semester 2 will be a bit better. We also haven't really picked up in small sound events. We did have one with Music Sock, which is hopefully going to encourage them a bit more. But we haven't seen any other pickup in things like a coffee house replacement. And we also haven't seen much in the way of small Gig in a Box events. So things like Gig in a Box on Parade just hasn't really happened this year. We've seen a lot of events, as usual, in the Plugged and Tub. A lot of that's club nights, but we've also seen some smaller events in there, as well as in the Edge, as usual. So yeah, you got that there. Let's go to degree procrastination leaderboard.
Oh, here we go.
There we go. So I'm not sure any of those are that surprising. Well done, everyone.
Hang on, a committee top 6.
I counted this. It's not in the report, but I did count it, and
I know.
committee temmed half of the events, and if you measure like crew date or like crew events as so each time someone signs up to crew an event, committee have a score of a third. So it's about 100 out of 300 total crew signed up.
Who's the other Tom?
Which other Tom?
There were 2 Toms on that.
So you got
No,
one's
one's crew and
one's
one's Thames.
my bad.
And 2 Henrys, and 2 Claires.
There's a theme.
My bad.
Yeah. We've seen a fair few people tem a single event, including quite a few freshers, so that's quite good to get more people involved. recommendations for next year. So yeah, we've reduced the number of events overall. And generally, while it has reduced production income, it has also been a lot less busy for us, which ultimately is easier to get crew for, but also better for us. And certainly offloading simple events that don't always help us develop and can act as a bit of a drain to the freelance team has freed us up a lot. And also provides some members with paid work, which is always good. So even though we are handing them off, we're not losing the benefit entirely. We've continued to have issues with societies trying to significantly change Edge bookings, which is something we should look to discourage in the future. But communication with the Edge has been really good, and we've ended up with a full theatre, sound system and lighting for the first time since I've been here, certainly. Money is still tight in the Edge, but maintenance issues are being sorted promptly, even if we can't get development done as fast as we'd like. And the current production charge structure seems to be working okay. While there is an argument for increasing the scaling component, ultimately these are also the events that help us the most, and so we shouldn't necessarily look to push that further. Yeah, that's everything.
Lovely. Thank you very
I'll
much.
get that to live stream.
So that's the next, isn't it?
Training and safety. Get off Snapchat.
Sorry. I'll let training go first.
Fine.
I mean, with the same role, but I'll let Kat explain training and then I'll come up and explain.
So where's your hand out, Joe?
Where's my handout or anything? Trust it.
So training's actually gone quite well. We're about level with other good uni sessions, so that's good. And it's been quite a varied year. We've got some new sessions coming up as well, really. So that's pretty good. In all, I think external training places, we've been sending about 43 people away, which is quite nice. And having the extra budget has helped us sort of fill in gaps that were arising, such as in IPAC or Plasma or Totalscope. So, yeah, in syllabus, we've had the paperwork's getting updated still. It should be done by the time I finish this year, which is great. Stop it!
Sorry,
So
I'll help myself.
The syllabus is on its way to being done, which is pretty good, and yeah, I'm quite happy with it. The skills on the website I wanted to do, but I haven't because there's been so much on the syllabus. So I'm hoping they'll get done next year. Thank you, Emma. Go on.
Right.
No, there's a request from Mr. Handy for you.
It's a strip. I know, I can see
You
it.
are not stripping.
Yeah.
Only if he goes first.
Yeah, only if it's done live stream. Yes, so for me, I don't have any numbers to give you at the moment because I'm an incredibly incompetent human and left my lab reports until far too late. On the whole, give me 2 seconds. On the whole, things like risk assessments, I've had a risk assessment for every event that I wanted one for. At the start of the year, I know, it's good numbers, right? At the start of the year, these weren't necessarily always delivered on time. They always came in before the event, but were very close to the time. As we've got further along, I've been getting these earlier, which is very good. Well done, team. Things that I haven't managed to achieve this year so far that I'd like to is the new electrical rework paperwork, which is still with the SU and has been for a very long time. This is on my list to try and achieve before final handover and hopefully get started before the end of the year again. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
Have a good evening.
TC says, take your shirt off.
I would, but actually I can't really think of a reason not to.
Well, just do it then.
Right. Jamie, who's up next?
Tim.
Do you want me to just go over the things that we've spent money on?
Come up to the front and have a little chat.
We've all had to enjoy it.
Considering how he hasn't spoken for the past year, I'll take that as having been
Dislike the screen. I'll let you do this number.
Oh, yes.
We have like a Tim's top 10.
if you want. It's like Kim's win of the week, but more interesting.
Can I suggest next equipment officer does this as like the Price is Right kind of thing?
Yeah.
How much should we spend on LED bars this year?
Okay, what was the smallest thing put on the equipment budget? Anyone? Smallest single purchase?
Was it the clock, or did that go on my budget?
The clock was actually quite expensive comparative to some things.
2 yellow form, 3p.
Kim says Grew.
Love you, Kim.
Smallest single thing was £2.75, which was for a handle for an acclaim. So, there you go.
On your budget, because I'm sure each one of those was less than that.
I know it's total in the form.
It is total. They were on here somewhere. Yeah, basically.
What's the cheapest item? Screw or something.
The most expensive thing for repairing shit this year was doing all the soccer. That was not cheap. And it turns out that apparently there's still more of it broken. So no doubt that number will go up before the actual end of the year. Because somehow some got missed or failed pat or whatever, I don't quite know. Then for buying new stuff, Sound had a lot of not small but not like big purchases, so new mic stands and a couple of other little bits like that, which has meant it's had a large amount of the new equipment spending put towards that. And then lighting has had new slim bars, which is the majority of their new equipment. We've seen some issues in repairing things with either skills not being there or people being unavailable. So that has caused a couple of delays at different points, but everything has been done in the end. Towards the end of the year, so still to go on here, and going out in an email soon will be the provisional spec for the replacement / version 2 of the Media Mac PC, which will be open for commenting and suggestions to revise down to a final spec to be bought before the end of the year. Other than that, I think it's been fairly standard. We've seen consumables go up. Apparently condoms are things we need more of now. I don't quite know why.
Backstage?
Yeah. 2 years ago, 2 years ago we used 20 condoms, and this year alone we've so far used 50. So.
I mean, the hype's just
Can't get them. They don't exist. Nowhere makes latex-free, large, unlubricated condoms. So they're no longer latex-free. They're just not made anymore.
It's a very niche market. Like, large unlubricated is a niche market in itself.
Yes, it is. We also updated Resolume to Resolume 6, and with it got a copy of Resolume 5. 6 is now out of beta, so feel free to actually use it now, because it won't crash every 5 seconds. I think that's about it. Not much more to say. So.
Sorry, George is broken.
I think it's me next. Or
go on.
Go on,
Jamie.
I'll come.
Have you got a presentation?
I don't have a presentation. I do have a report which was handed out. But okay, hello everyone, and to everyone at home.
Hi, Dean.
So, if you've got my report in front of me, you'll see the membership stats that Henry's already gone through, so we won't go through it again. Other things that have happened this year is that, courtesy of Ben Jones' very hard work, we've got the newest rollout of the website. It's mainly the same kind of functions, with just extra features added, and a
bit of a reskin.
Yeah, a bit of a reskin. We have also made a lot of progress on refurbishing our office. I heard today that we are going to, well, fingers crossed, we will be getting a new carpet, the office will be repainted, and we should be getting new desks and drawers, so hopefully that room will be in line with the rest of the offices in the SU. Everyone go, ooh. That's really about it. Minutes have been going out a little bit later than I'd like this year. There's been a number of reasons for that, but hey ho. And overall, it's been a relatively positive year. I've started experimenting with some new advertising, so we've been on the SU Instagram page a couple of times, and we're going to be doing more live takeovers. I've had a couple of people contact us straight after one of those, so it's actually been quite worthwhile. That's probably it. I'm going to go back to typing.
Cool.
Thank you.
Lovely. Right. What's next, Jamie?
Daniel.
Good man.
Can I have a round of applause? No.
Why? Is the end not going to be worth one?
No. Alright, keep it short, brief. I don't have anything prepared. I've put it on the back of my bingo card. I think that about sums up the year. So yeah, this year hasn't been as great as originally thought. We've had approximately 50 to 60% of the socials we had last year, which was still an improvement on 2 years ago. Turnout to socials has dropped a little bit. I think that's due to core friend group sort of moving on. So it'd be nice if freshers kind of like became really good friends with everyone else. I know you're already friends. You know, just get it together, you know, go out. That's what I want.
So you mean it's nothing to do with the social sector, is it?
Oh no, it's a lot to do with me. We had 2.5 pub tours, if you can count that one that we don't speak of. Christmas meal was an interesting sort of like departure from norm, but luckily we seem to have fixed that next year. I liked it. I liked the new place. I think we could do an alternating thing, but I guess Rosie loves us and we love the bath in Portland.
We've already booked next year's Christmas meal.
We already have.
It's in the diary.
Which is good, seeing as no one's running for social secretary.
To not take your clothes off.
Our reduction in socials has mostly been due to the kind of minor movie socials that Claire ran quite a lot. I haven't been running those. I don't think people have realised, but I've been on more of a suggest socials to me and we'll run them kind of guy. Also haven't put a lot on the website. So that kind of explains a lot of the drop. But even though I'm still kind of including them. That's all I've got to say really. I will accept questions, unlike everyone else.
Hang on, we have questions in a minute.
Oh yeah, it's fine.
There's a whole section of
There's
this.
a whole part of this. I don't know the format.
Neither do I. Jamie, what's next?
Questions to committee.
Excellent. Can we have the whole committee up on stage, please? We should have put a stage up.
We should not have.
I'm going to stay here so I can type.
Okay, Jamie gets to sit down.
Is Tom doing
It's okay. Right.
Tom is
Get in.
Sorry, pretending I know what I'm doing.
Would it help if we were further away from the camera?
No, I've got some Zoom. Zoom.
Gonna have to go.
Lovely. What's the format of this, Jamie, then? Is it just open questions?
Yes.
Lovely. Questions open to the floor.
Can you thought that shirt colour was a good idea?
Hands, please. We raise our hand in class.
Claire.
But it's score colour.
That was a good idea.
Yes, this is we thought about this long and hard, okay?
We did.
In the same way, black is the main colour of Backstage, but yellow is the highlight.
See? I'm trialing it.
Got to cuddle up to town a bit.
That is literally the reason we thought, why not?
Are you sure black and yellow isn't because black and yellow are kind of hazard?
Maybe we're the hazard. Could be. Next question, please. This will be a very quick session. Go on, Angel.
What do you think the biggest challenge you've tackled this year has been? And what advice would you give to next year's committee for dealing?
Should we take it straight down the line? Jamie, you're at the end, so you get the longest to think, okay? Exactly. Biggest problem I faced this year.
Sorry, can I clarify? Is that individually?
Or is that as pertaining to our committee roles?
I was going individually before then to go out to fire.
We did both.
Individually, I'd say the biggest issue has been trying to wrangle AV to meetings probably is the slightly less serious answer. It's been a nightmare this year. Slightly more serious, we've had a couple of sort of clashes with members that have been perhaps dealt with rather rashly instead of with cool heads. And I'd like to think that whoever's chair next year will be able to keep a level head a bit more and hear all the facts before jumping to any conclusions. It was something I learned early on in the year, and I wouldn't like to repeat it. Dan?
Yes, biggest problems.
Christmas meal?
No, Christmas wasn't a problem.
Just a failure.
I
Why
think.
haven't you stood up?
Yeah, come on, Tom, get up. Go on. Nah, get on the end.
I think there's been a lot of sass.
We need that on camera.
That counts 10 minutes later.
Yeah.
I do.
When do you
Shut
get
up.
Quiet.
It's only score, but
Go.
still.
I agree. I think there's been a sort of change in atmosphere a little bit in Backstage compared to when I was fresher compared to this year. I think maybe it's not. I think it's a good thing actually, but I don't think Backstage is much people's lives this year. But at the same time, there's kind of a bit more stress because of that, because people aren't entirely sure like what's going on sometimes. With can they get the crew available, and due to that kind of like up stress, I think those kind of tensions have come out more so than previous years. I think that's been the biggest problem generally.
Oh, yeah. I think that my biggest problem's sort of been trying to work out a timescale everything takes has been quite tough towards the start of the year. From trying to do first aid and trying to get booked and paid in a week was hilarious. Thank you, Ben. But yeah, just trying to work out how long it takes for sessions to get organised, and reminding people they're running sessions was one learning curve when someone didn't turn up. Yeah, that's been my biggest thing really.
My biggest issue has been trying to get Ensley to pay out on insurance claims.
For the car?
In the future, I would try and fix this by nobody break anything.
I'm graduating.
More importantly, don't break any of RPA's stuff, because as it turns out, it's quite hard to get Ensley to pay out on things when RPA haven't sent us the invoice for the hire yet. 4 months after the event.
So you'll be in problems with RPA then?
RPA and Ensley. Let's go with that.
According to Mr. Lay, RPA now have a hire track system in place, so...
No, it's still inside his head, and Matt just sort of holds on for dear life.
He's just determined that that's now a higher track.
If Ian dies, RPA stops.
Yes.
After you, Tim.
I think probably the biggest individual issue has been trying to find level 3s or students who are around and available and willing to help with various things. That has hindered things at several points. And I think probably overall I would have to agree that the biggest issue has been a switch in attitude of the membership and of other committee members at times, where perhaps aggression or bad intentions have been assumed where there weren't any, and a cooler head approach would be needed.
Right, so from my point of view, I literally have forgotten the question, but from my point of view, the biggest problem I've had is that I just haven't done enough fucking committee work. This is mainly due to the fact that I have let things get off my radar. Like the electrical rework paperwork, like standing risk assessments that are still in progress from when I started. I found it very easy to get distracted doing other things, and then you get to the next committee meeting and you go, shit, it's been a month and I haven't done any work on this. So I'd say for anyone coming into this role and doing it next year, just keep track of what you're doing. It doesn't require an excessively large amount of time to do the work. It's just making sure that you do a little per week and then it'll add up overall. Jamie.
We can probably go on. I'll just finish typing those.
I'm going to say getting Thames in good time. There's always a trade-off between obviously you want to get attendance as soon as possible, but also the earlier you go, the harder it is, as people are know less what they're going to do, and so it's hard to find that balance there. Whereby you're not advertising something so far in advance that people are absolutely clueless whether they can support it, but equally you don't want to be so last minute that everything's rushed. You can't confirm events until the last minute, etc.
The biggest issue I've had this year has probably been getting Tim to submit his fucking officer reports.
To be fair, there have been monthly emails instead.
No, no. In fairness, I think for me the most frustrating thing, as you're probably aware, is the state of the office, because
he's triggered.
Who's got that one? Because trying to convince CSU to spend loads of money on the office for them to come and say, well, let's see what it looks like, and there be over 1,000 bits of hole punch bits on the floor.
No, you can't talk. Shush, shush.
Yeah, I'd probably say that. I think there's also been the usual, as the year has gone on, as Tim alluded to, the odd kind of committee disagreement, but I think in retrospect it's been alright.
Mons on the live stream says, this is for any of the committee members, not all of them. Are the committee noting a change in members' attitude towards crowing events, and do they think this is an issue for the society? I.e. the yearly question.
I say this is a very fair question and one with a reasonably obvious answer. I'm sure Tom will somewhat agree here. Ever since, and I've heard this from older members and various chairs and the like, ever since student fees went up, people put more value on their degrees, people feel more strongly that they have to get a first, they have to work hard, they have to do well, and as a result simply don't have either the time or the inclination to put as much into Backstage or any other society. I can understand the sentiment, I can't necessarily agree with it because I'm chair and I kind of like Backstage, but I understand, and I'm not necessarily sure there is anything you can do other than try and actually retain a larger membership to keep the overall workload the same but have more going on.
Any other comments?
I guess my comment on that is if attitudes are changing towards how much Backstage people do, that's not an issue for the society, it just means your society does less. Because the society is for some of its members, so I don't think that it's a problem as long as it's handled correctly.
Well, it's something we've been trying to do all year, isn't it? We've dropped a lot of events.
Tom has
this
done a
year.
really good job of binning off all the events no one really wants to do, and I think that's had a big, or made a big improvement to the events that we do. So I don't think it's an issue because you can handle it properly.
Okay, Ben Lane again on the live stream. This is primarily aimed at Kat and Joe, but also open to other opinions. Has the dual training position worked well this year?
I like it. I wouldn't, if I'd have had to do both jobs, I probably wouldn't have done any events. And then doing that, obviously I did 1 or 2 events. So I've really liked it, and being able to sort of stand in for each other as well, I think it's really helped.
Yeah.
So like, if Joe is busy a week, I can do that. Risk assessment's a bit out of the ordinary. Or like when I had to go away for a couple of days, Joe could go and keep an eye on training. So I think it went really nicely. I liked it.
Yeah, I think it's helped spread the workload, and as Kat says, it meant that we were able to do more events. I think it could be done by one person, but
It'd just be a bit hard.
but it'd be substantially more work than I would necessarily want to put in. It depends on the person that's going for the role.
Yeah, I think one person would be quite difficult to try and do and just do any events at that point.
Yeah, and we don't want to be in a position where a committee can't crew events.
Yeah.
So, anyone in the room? No.
Any other questions?
Mons asks, is Backstage a society or a sport?
If we were a sports team, we'd get far more money.
Can you ask Mons if I'm allowed to cross off the society or service in that case?
No.
But now you just said it. We can.
Hey!
It was a reference, but I'll give you that.
Thanks, Mons.
TC says one of the Mons wedges getting fixed.
I forgot. I have now actually noted down the model number of the drivers, so I can now actually relay that information when I ring up and the first question they ask me is, what drivers are they? And I go, I forgot
Mons
to check
wedge
that.
drivers.
Yes.
Wow.
Do we even need Mons wedges?
No.
That's a substitution check.
We can vote on it.
Someone just break them anyway.
Any other questions to any committee members?
Go on. Can't speak. Can't speak.
Can't speak. He's staff.
Alrighty.
From the live stream again. Do you think Russia is meddling in the backstage elections?
Russia had nothing to do with my election.
I'll let you know after.
If any of these guys, if anyone gets poisoned, it was nothing to do with me.
Angel has come straight from Salisbury.
This is his refuge.
I know we touched on this earlier, Henry in particular, but Mons asks, what's the current status of the drama still?
Current official status is that Polly is dealing with it directly with the states, and anything we want to do interfaces through her.
So are we
now,
going to treat it as ours?
at the moment, the official line of the SU is we're not moving until the states find us another appropriate room. They say, but there isn't an appropriate room. Polly says, well then I guess we're not moving, are we? That's about where we're at. We're using it as our room. Despite how much authorised persons only tape they put across the door.
Status for use is currently it has stuff that needs fixing in it, and it has tools in it, so...
Just needs people in it?
It does just need people in it. This week I'm currently in the middle of a giant tidy up though, so if you want to go in and do anything, let me know, because things are rather disorganised, as Chris Lyon found out the other day when he walked in on me trying to tidy it up, and everything was
More like you walked in on me.
True. I had been in there earlier, and then came back to find you. It was like, oh, this is confusing. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Sorry.
Any last ones?
questions about what we've done this year, or questions about thoughts on the future direction?
No, excellent. Everyone sit down.
Go on, James.
What's the crack about trampolining in general?
We will get to this
So
on one of the AGM points.
You'll remember Henry sent round an event survey.
We're getting to this on one of the AGM points.
Yes.
That answers my question then, thank you.
Find out.
Yes, Chris.
Ben Lane has a question.
Does the committee feel that there are certain events we should reject based on how crap they were historically? Or
Yes.
should we consider each event on its own basis every year?
Tom, do you want to start with this one?
So, I mean, I think classifying events is an easy way to reduce workload, and thus judging events by how they were in the past is usually quite a good indicator. That said, it's important to kind of look at how things are going and potentially think about giving events a second chance. For example, Platform's a great example where for us it was awful, but this year for you it was a lot better due to different management and potentially a change in attitude from last year.
Yeah,
so while I think outright, just default declining events from certain clients, for example, is probably a bad idea. It can still be useful. For example, things like Quips events rarely require a large amount of technical support, and so while we do consider them, it's usually just briefly in a meeting before passing them over to Tom.
So, as part of that, the kind of principle we've been going by in terms of finding terms for things is that we'll send it out once and see if there's any interest. We'll send out again, 2 weeks later, something like that?
So I'm sending out now weekly, kind of, here's what's coming up, here's things that need sending emails. Yeah.
And basically it's 3 strikes and we turn it down?
More like 5 at this point. I'm aiming to reduce to more like 3.
The aim, though, is the outer principle. If there is no apparent interest in it, unless it's like a really good event we want people to do, we'll just say, sorry, not for us this time, maybe next year.
Do you have a time limit in mind, sort of before the event, to have rejected it?
We like to aim for 2 weeks,
Yeah.
seeing as that's sort of what our terms of service say. It seems fair that you can probably organise other technical support within 2 weeks of the event. There's been 1 or 2 this year that have been a bit close for comfort, and I think one of them did actually get cancelled because of it, which was a shame.
So yeah, there have been a few that have been pretty close this year. However, while I think it is good to reject them in advance, we do make it very clear that this is not a guarantee, and thus, while we are obviously the more experienced party, I think you also have to go, events should have the ability to recognise that maybe they should look at alternatives. And so I think while we have a duty to keep people informed, we also have to treat them like adults and not try and baby them through the entire process.
Cool. Is that okay, Chris?
Yep.
Lovely. Emily?
I'm trying to continue on with the same thing. I wonder if 2 weeks is too short, essentially. Like, I spoke to someone in Viet Bath, that might have been the event that had the problems, who was really upset that they were struggling so much there. Did they get cancelled in the end?
So Viet Bath was actually, it was a big shame this year. So we tried quite hard to find an event manager, and we were trying to be quite supportive throughout the process. And actually the way that we handed off, so we handed off to Tom and the Edge, but the way we did that was very much, oh look, we're really sorry we can't find you an event manager this time. We just got so much other stuff going on, members are too busy, but here's Tom from the Edge, he can sort your technical support, we're going to make sure that you still can have your show. And it's very much a positive thing of, we're really sorry we can't do this, but here's someone who can make sure that your show still happens.
So yeah, while it was rejected late, we did keep them informed throughout the process that this was something we could still look at, and that what would happen if we couldn't was that we would hand over to Tom. And so while it was rejected late, we made the alternative clear, and also handing it over earlier wouldn't have improved the level of support from Tom. It would have resulted in the same quality of show.
Tom has quite a hard line of bare minimalist.
But the thing is though as well, sorry, but is like, I think from the person I spoke to in Viet Bath, she messaged me about stuff. I think they were quite upset that they had to suddenly decide at the last minute to be hard minimalist. So I still think it's worth giving it at least more than 2 weeks. It's probably difficult as well because it was near to the start of the semester when we haven't got as much time to now people including instantly in it.
So the trouble is we only had about a month from people finishing exams to Viet Bath. And if we want to give people a reasonable chance of actually applying to Tenet, we can't reasonably open it for a few days and then turn it down on the first go when we don't get event managers.
Yeah, so
I think it's much more worth trying hard to get an event manager for it so that we can provide this service instead of going, oh, no one wants to do it on the first try, we'll turn it down so they have time to find someone else.
I think part of this comes out of the flaw in VSU in the absolute mad reliance on it. So like you say, I mean this year they've got a lot better at or the Edge have got a lot better at taking on these kind of shows when we can't do them, but like Emily said, that means Tom has to give a minimalist service which some societies might not like. It sucks, but for SU societies the option is a minimalist. I don't know what the Edge charge if it's
Chris, what is the Edge rate for one technician per hour?
£12.50 an hour.
So it's £12.50 an hour.
Yeah, so it's costing the societies quite a lot to get less, or they're having to rely on us. So that's the flaw with it.
It just costs platform about £1,000.
So it depends a lot. So for small events like Quips, it actually works out more cost effective than. So Quips is yeah, so £50 as opposed to a £90 one night show.
So things like Quips, it always works out as cheaper for them to go with the Edge, but sadly larger shows don't. Ultimately, it is an institutional problem. It's something that me and Polly have spoken at length throughout the year, basically, and it all spurred from initially struggling with crew at the beginning of the year. We've had quite a long conversation about this several times about what the SU should be doing to support these societies that we can't support and shouldn't feel obligated to support. And that is something that's going to take time to sort itself out, and it's going to take time for the SU to agree any kind of budget or system in place for that. I can only hope that the chair next year going forward continues that discussion.
So one of the issues I have looking at an idea of the SU providing an alternative fund is that the amount of money you have to get an equivalent service to us would be far better spent on investing in backstage equipment to either make shows better or reduce workload and thus make it more likely we can support more shows. Yeah, for example, if the SU did end up spending £1,000 on a show for 3 a year, obviously that could, we could make better use of that. There's a question of whether that devalues us if they're going to spend £3,000 on that a year while investing relatively, not so much in it.
Is that okay? Angel?
I think just staying on that point slightly, obviously there's people that note that.
Sorry, do you mind speaking up a little
Sorry,
bit?
yeah.
Especially for the camera.
Yeah, sorry. Staying on that point slightly, that it's been noted earlier in the meeting that it's perceived that maybe we're doing too much, or we've been trying certainly to reduce the number of events we do. With that in mind, contrasted to Sean's statement, I'm not sure necessarily that it would be devaluing us to for the SU to have a separate fund to accommodate it as well as we can't. Because ultimately, if we are prioritising ourselves, if we're prioritising fewer bookings, then I'm not sure where I'm going at this point, actually.
The point being is that even this fund, if it were to exist, would still have to be substantial and would only provide a percentage of the costs covered. It would never cover the entire event.
Yeah, I think
so ultimately, Backstage is still a premium value service compared to only having 50% discount on £3 for one night show. Is that, Alex, is that a follow-up question? Because I think Hugh had a question. Okay, go on.
It was more just to follow up a reminder point of a couple of years ago for culturals, etc. We used to do a cultural starting at lunchtime on the day of the show, and we now do text addresses for that kind of thing. If we're struggling to do events, we used to do that. Let's do it again.
That was a point. Sorry, that was a point.
Go on.
That was a point that I changed at the end of my PM year, because when we used to do cultures in one day, everyone left that event hating it, which we never done it. I changed it to 3 days because that felt reasonable for the kind of show that cultures want, especially given Emily's point that couldn't have a large show, or at least the larger show as a small bus show. That kind of seemed appropriate to give them a similar amount of time, please.
So the current cultural format at the moment is we have Relaxed Rig on the Wednesday. They have the space to practice and basically get a feel for it, make sure it all fits on the Thursday.
Feel the space.
Tech and Dress on the Friday, show on the Saturday night. So it's the same workload, but it is spread out over a few more evenings rather than sort of necessarily having to plough through it all of your weekend. So it's a balancing act, I think. We've made it shorter than Angel necessarily made it, or rather the Edge interpreted it to be, but it is still longer than it used to be, and I think that's still a balance to be found, and ultimately it wasn't a balance that could be improved upon this year because of the number of culturals that either were turned down, didn't happen, pulled out or cancelled. For reference, Backstage has done 0 culturals this year, due to 2 culturals cancelling because they didn't like the dates they were given. They weren't any other dates, that was what they had. China Ring got cancelled because of the snow, and now that's in Comedia. We probably aren't crewing that one. And then obviously Viet Bath we had to turn down because we just couldn't find the crew.
Regarding...
Hang on. Hugh's been waiting the longest.
So
go on.
Going back to Tom's point earlier about turning shows down,
Mm-hmm.
Particularly SU shows, and Backstage as a society received a fairly substantial chunk of money from the SU that covers some of its costs of operation and a lot of its training costs. If the SU starts having to fund cultural societies and other societies to do shows not supported by Backstage,
mm-hmm.
would it be reasonable to expect that the society Backstage's funding would decrease as a corollary of that? And how would the committee justify the SU having to spend more money on putting shows on when Backstage has the capability as a society to support those shows, even if people haven't been organised within time available?
Shall I say this?
Yeah.
Well, because I've been dealing with this, so shall I take it? So I think the main point of this debate is that at the end of the day, the SU exists to serve the students, not the other way around. Which means that we, like any other society, exist to further our skills and interests this obviously is partly achieved by doing events. Now, through discussions with Polly, with the proposal of should they be finding money, should they be doing more to support these societies that either can't get backstage support or can't get the time in the edge or that kind of thing. The proposal has always been is that this would be some form of pot of money that comes right from the top level of SU management, because ultimately it would have to be in the order of tens of thousands of pounds. That's the only way that they could support all the shows that we turn down. Now obviously this is vastly more than our approximately £3,000 a year given by the Activities Office, which is also a separate pot donated by the Activities Office. Obviously if activities don't directly control the society show fund, we'll call it, then actually they're two very distinct things. Ultimately, I don't think this, the Society's Office, the Activities Office, can afford to reduce Backstage funding. I think they're very aware of the stress we're put under. They're very aware of quite how much we do for the SU, and they're aware, or they are very aware of how much money we save them every year. For reference, Ben, how much we put through the account this year so far?
What, spending?
Yeah.
About 40 grand?
So we've spent about 40 grand this year. If we didn't exist, the SU would have spent closer to 150, 170,000 pounds. And I don't think they can possibly justify reducing our budget when the more they reduce our budget, the tighter we're squeezed, the more events we turn down, and the more they have to support directly through even further increased spending. I don't think they can justify that. Claire?
Moving on from that point, it's slightly different but also slightly related because it talks about membership commitment. In terms of members wanting to be less involved and doing fewer events and make sure they have time to do other things in their life, especially with added degree stress, how can we make sure that they have enough training and experience to get a larger event and not just do because also might find boring? And is this an issue that we've seen in terms of getting bigger events?
Do you want to say training?
So, training is always hard because, especially if you haven't come from a training background or a theatre background, it is hard to get into a role, I found. And that's both personal experience and just what I've observed. If you haven't had the training, it's hard because shows are looking for people that have at least got a baseline knowledge. So when trying to balance that with other things, it is all about trying to find your own balance of it. And we try to put trainings on right after crew meetings to try and help with that. Because then if someone's going to do an event, at least it's one evening, not like 4, where we're running training on a Monday, but crew meetings on a Tuesday and a show's on a Thursday. So we're trying to help people sort of balance by just saying, if we take the 2-hour block, that's done. And you've got your crew meeting that done at the same time. In terms of getting onto roles, looking this year, I don't think people have struggled too much with getting into larger roles. From what I've seen on shows that, particularly shows I've been looking after, there's not really been any difference from what I observed last year.
I think in terms of if we let's say that we explicitly define the less experience as just the fresher year, okay? Regardless of how much theatre experience or whatever experience they have before joining Backstage, I think actually I've been reasonably impressed this year with the amount of core crew roles they've managed to either do by themselves or be even willing to apply for under a mentor. Actually, I've been really impressed with that this year. Look at even this side of the room here. Are there any other freshers here today? No. This side of the room. Well, 2 of them are running for committee. I don't. But they've both applied for Summerball core crew roles leading departments. I mean, I don't really know what more you can ask of them. I think, yeah, in fact, all 3 of them have applied for Summerball core crew. I don't really see. I think in terms of their keenness and our willingness to put them into these sort of high risk roles but high reward, I think it's been quite good to see that we've been really pushing a mentor mentality this year. It was something that we were very conscious of at the beginning of the year and very worried about this skills gap and starting to lose skills in the society. And it's something that we've been really pushing quite hard throughout the year. And actually, I'm quite pleased with the results so far.
Should we take one last question?
Go on. Fight.
Two more. Yeah, we do two more.
Alright, let's have Angel and Simon and then we'll stop there. Angel?
As a placement student, who's perhaps felt more involved than
Came what, fourth on the events?
That's the one. And Claire at the same time. Obviously, I'm blind to how this looks from outside context, but do you feel that, particularly myself and Claire, but placement students in general, like Lottie and any of you who come back, have done more this year than previous years? And is this an issue?
It's actually a really interesting question. I'd love to see the actual numbers for it. My gut feeling says that we may have potentially done more than normal, but at the same time, I think it's odd to have two. I'm going to discount you, Angel. I'm sorry. I know you're only an hour away, but two local placement students who are they're both living in Bath. One lives on campus. Okay. I mean, I'm not sure you can get much closer to Backstage physically than that. I think it's purely the physical location that has driven this along. If you look in previous years, we've had people like, we have Ben Jones, who obviously lived in Bath, worked in Rolls-Royce. He was back all the time. Again, lived in Bath. Alex Renishaw, did he live in Bristol or, and was back all the time. So there's always been that one person, one or two people who live physically close enough that they'll go, yeah, I've got nothing on, I'll go do this show for the weekend. And I think I'd be inclined to make that the primary factor in this case. Whether you felt more of a need to come back and help out because you felt that certain events were struggling, or perhaps that you needed to be there to sort of lend your skills and pass on your knowledge, I don't know. But I'd certainly suspect that the physical location is quite a significant factor. Anyone else with a...
like to add to that? I think particularly with regards to equipment, they haven't helped out more this year than any other year. I think certainly in terms of crewing events and being present on socials, yep, they've been around more. As Henry said, probably due to locality. But I think in terms of training and repairs, and perhaps probably no more has been contributed by placement students than in previous years.
I disagree on training.
Kat, do you want to elaborate?
I've just found that basically this year especially, I've noticed like everyone's willing to help, and when I've looked to organise sessions that haven't necessarily run this year for one reason or another, people have been there to help. Placement students or students that are graduated or even current students are willing to help. I've sent out 2 major questions this year of what do you want to see run, what would you be interested in running, and I've had the responses. The difference has been whether I've been blocked in running a session, whether I've run the session, or who is most suitable. So in actual fact they've been there and they've been willing to help, and that's been shown by who's been coming back and who, for example, when you look at stuff like microphones training, I've already seen a placement student signed up, and whether that's to help or whether that's just to come see what they can do, because I know they're sufficient, then fine. So I think in actual fact they're there still, and especially in training, they've been ready to help them.
Cool. Well, I've found some placement students certainly are opposed to even receiving Backstage emails and reading them. So
that might have been phrasing the email. I think that's a separate point to cover.
Next question.
Simon, let's have your last question, then we'll move on.
So, kind of moving on from the earlier point about Bath, is there an issue with large events stealing crew from small events on that same time or in close proximity? For example, Bath was on the same time as Lego,
No.
Is this an issue, and would better coordination with the Edge when it comes to planning events solve stuff like that?
Do you define LEGO as a larger event or a more interesting event?
Both.
Then
let's say.
I think for all those with the bingo cards, I think this leads back to a historic debate, or whether Backstage is a society or a sport. And I think, yeah, because we're not contracted by the SU to do things, we do have some freedom of choice. I think naturally you're going to see more people interested in the larger events. You know, it's not surprising that people are more willing to put time into a large rhythm show than, say, a small quote show or a cultural, which is often a lot more stressful and a small result at the end.
Wait until you see the event's poll results.
Yes.
Oh fuck! I forgot we got to go through that as well.
Shall we move on to our first?
Shall we move
I
on?
might take some extra questions on events.
Shall we move on to our first agenda point?
Yes.
Right, committee, please take your seats.
We're doing Constitution first.
Constitution first, easy. Right. So, where's the Constitution?
It's only like 10-15 seconds. That's not too bad.
Cool. So, constitutionally, in terms of changes, it's a very simple year actually. It's mostly formatting, grammar, slightly updating things. There are no genuine changes. I suspect this will be a nice quick debate. We're going to go through point by kind of point. Basically, power through this and see. I know I'm waiting. This is the preface. And see if people have any major concerns. Okay?
We're going to pull it up.
I will. Come on, turn on. Yeah. What's the? How do you zoom on this? I feel so old.
Browser zoom.
Just browse.
Oh, but that's disgusting.
Go to like view and then like zoom.
No, there isn't. Look.
No, look.
Oh yeah. Aha.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm an engineer. Right. So, blah 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 blah. First proposal. I'd like to get rid of this hyphen. Wider community is 2 words, not a hyphenated and a space word. It currently says, and wider hyphen space community.
I'm going to suspect
Well, we'll find out. We're voting on it.
Objection.
What?
Because the universe has a finite time that is going to exist.
Denied.
Can we just go over all of them and then we just go over all of them at once?
Okay.
Yes.
We'll power through them and then do yes, no's all the way through. Okay. Next one. This is a technicality wording. It basically infers that members can only vote to change the appendices, not the rest of the Constitution. I propose we make it better worded so that you can change the rest of it. Next point.
We're not allowed to vote on that. No, we can't propose. We can
This needs updating to the SU's new opinion on placement students running for non-core roles. The official line of the SU is that this has to be signed off by the SU and the current committee on anyone on placement next year wanting to run for one of the roles. I believe that our constitution should be updated to reflect the SU's policies.
So what happens is you contact the committee if you want to stand, and essentially you work with the committee to submit a short thing to the SU that goes, this is what they'd like to stand for, and this is why we believe they're suitable despite being on placement.
And to clarify, this is the people who are going to be on placements during the
Yes.
Yeah, so all of this refers to what you will be when serving as a committee member.
Yeah. I'd like to replace every mention of Bath student with the SU Bath.
Can't we just say the SU website?
No, because we also mentioned the mailing list and the other websites to be specific. I like continuity, and this is fewer votes than changing all the other ones.
Yeah. Where are all the shapes at bts-brew.com?
Don't. Exactly the same. This needs updating to saying that minutes are found in the resources section, not printed out in the office, which they haven't been done for a few years now. And then replace the word event manager with technical event manager to reflect last year's constitutional changes.
We
Chris, we updated constitutionally last year to refer in or client-facing documentation as a technical event manager to stop them getting confused. And those are the changes. Right.
We voting on each one?
Yeah. We have to. Would anyone like to discuss any of the proposed changes?
I still think it needs to say the wider community on that first change.
Not possible.
No.
Because there's
a done before university.
It's a list.
I actually agree with that.
Yeah.
It should also have an Oxford comma, but you know.
Yeah, can we put the Oxford comma?
Okay, proposal is Oxford comma and
Right,
the
so
wider
I'm just going to have
space
to
community.
explain to slightly less
Hang on, watch
educated
this.
people like myself.
Watch this. Are you ready, Joe? You ain't ready. Okay. Boom.
What's the comma for? I don't give a fuck. I mean, I should really stop swearing. I'm really tired. Sorry, guys.
To be fair,
and also, should it be the SE bath runs?
Also, doesn't the Students' Union have an apostrophe in it?
Yes.
Maybe wrong.
Oh my god.
That's correct, yeah.
Oh my god, you guys.
Okay. Would anyone else like to propose a change to this one specific phrase?
Capital T. Yeah, that should be uncapitalised.
Yeah.
We vote individually on everybody's small
Just for the purpose of the minutes, this is going down as improving the grammar as opposed to listing every punctuation change because it's 20 to 9.
Right. We're going to propose a vote on that now. The proposal is to correct this line here with the proposed corrections, as you can see. Are you ready, Jamie?
Includes streams, not you. 25 plus
Streamers can vote yes.
No one leaves until
Right. All in favour of correcting it to the proposed line? Raise your hand now.
Wait for the rest of the vote.
Everyone but you.
You can't vote.
That's true.
Press can't vote.
Alright.
Yeah.
Right. Those against? That will be none, Jamie. And those abstaining? That will be 1.
Quickly waiting for anyone on the... Okay, so just TC.
And we've got an easy
Oh, he's an associate.
The associate can't vote.
Oh, wait.
That's TC.
He
That makes it feel really odd, TC being and associate.
To be fair, he did only do a 3-year course. It's kind of cheating. Right. Are there any other people voting, Tom, or is that it? Cool.
And even so, we've got tons of votes.
Right. Next one. I'm not going to bother rewording this, but on principle, should we update it to say that you can change the whole constitution, not just the appendices?
We're about to vote on that. It's your
We're not allowed to vote on this because it's constitutional.
No, Henry proposed the change. You get to vote on it.
Yes. So, does everybody understand the question?
So there needs to be a new state.
Yes.
Yeah. Members can vote
So the comment that Tom's put here is that there should be a separate point saying anyone can propose changes to any part of the Constitution. That's the clause we propose employing. Does anybody not understand what we are proposing? Lovely. Okay. So these proposed changes, all in favour, raise your hand now.
Oh, I thought we cut myself.
So disappointing, you, Jamie.
No one's going to check anyway.
Those against? And those abstaining?
Oh, is that?
There's 1 abstention.
Plus the...
Pension are releasing a...
There are another
a
3
standard.
yeses in chat, 1
Four.
no.
4.
Are those valid?
Yes.
So 3...
Yeah, no, but there's Thomas, Jordan and Sky, yes. Ben Lane, no.
Okay, so there's 3 more yeses and 1 no. Right. Vote for this one's nice and simple. Should this clause here be updated to reflect the new Students' Union policy that those going on placement may be elected to a non-core 3 committee position following approval by the SU and the current committee. I think that's a fairly self-explanatory point. Does anyone not understand it? Lovely. Okay, let's vote then. All in favour of changing this? Oh. Hold your hand up properly. Don't be like.
I'm tired.
Oh.
It's going to be slow counting.
This is democracy. You can't be tired.
Jamie, 4 yes in chat.
4 yeses in chat. Those against and those abstaining. That'll be 1 abstention.
Tom doesn't count as a vote.
No, I'm not counting.
Oh, you're not
No.
counting.
The problem is Jordan votes before I mention the vote.
Jamie, that's 1 abstention.
Yep.
Lovely. We will do that. Oh, I'm going to sneeze.
Update the website.
Don't do it by the microphone.
Okay, I'm going to do a triple vote here. We're going to roll them all into one. Should we replace bathstudent.com in any mention of with the subath.com? Does anybody want to debate this point or not understand it?
I would propose a different, let's make it like the Backstage website, Backstage mailing list, the SU website, brackets, whatever its current address is.
Yes.
Oh, I've just noticed that. Yeah, that's upsetting.
What has HTTP?
Oh.
No.
That's because that's an email address.
Yeah, but no, the
As a war society,
I mean,
go out
on the
on the
website.
Right. So, would anyone like to counter Chris Lyon's offer?
I'd like to abolish the SU and never really need it.
Sadly, not within my power.
Dad,
Okay.
I've got a line in bingo.
What
do you? You got a line?
Oh my god, go grab the spaghetti circles.
Right. Come on, cat, sit down, chop chop.
Nah, fuck it, I'm just.
Here you go. Right. Okay. In which case, we'd like to propose the change that the website is updated to the subath.com using the same formatting as above. Does anyone not understand that? Lovely. Those in favour of changing?
Oh.
What?
Don't worry.
Are you whining again?
Yeah.
Those against? Nobody. And those abstaining?
3 pro on the live stream.
4, isn't it?
No, because TC.
No, TC can't vote.
Oh, no, sorry, 4 now. Thomas is voting.
So 4 people. Yeah.
Why is that?
Because he's an idiot.
We get rid of
Cool.
Anyone want to get rid of HTTP?
And go to HTTPS at least.
We want HTTP.
Oh god.
What do you think?
Okay, so that's
Okay, should this statement I need a gavel, okay? Shush. Right. Guys, no. The longer you talk, the longer we're here all night.
No.
Right. Should this highlighted sentence be updated to reflect the fact that we don't store committee minutes in the office anymore? They are all found on the resources section. Does anybody not understand the proposal? Right, let's vote then. All in favour, raise your hand now. One hand, please, Kat. Jamie, have you counted that?
Yeah.
Yeah, hands down here.
Okay, those against? And those abstaining? None.
3 yes, 1 no on the live stream.
Yep.
Oh, 2.
No, he's associate.
This is so confusing.
Is he associated?
Oh, he's not. Right, last one, let's go. Final vote. Should we update this sentence here to reflect last year's constitutional change that we refer to the event manager as the technical event manager, client side? Does anybody have a counter proposal or not understand? Lovely. All in favour of changing it? Raise your hand now. Those against? And those abstaining? 0 for both.
3 yes on the live stream.
Yes.
Is that everything?
That is the Constitution fully updated. Good job, guys. Yeah?
Let's go to the next time, Sox GM style, send around the changes in advance and then we vote on them.
I could do, but I only collated these about 10 minutes before the AGM.
That's Sox GM style.
Exactly.
I think Sox GM style, we're getting a load of changes and then don't vote on
Not a
Next.
thing on the event.
Right. Jamie, what is next, boy?
Events poll.
Events poll.
It actually is a
In
brief
under 15
summary
brief
of
summary
the events
of
poll.
Brief summary. I'll send out full results later. I just want to highlight a few bits to this. Let's go somewhere. Where is it?
Events poll.
Right. Ignoring that, ignoring that, ignoring that. So, first interesting thing to note. Associates made up 27% of the answers, which is excellent. The other, approximately half, is made up by third, fourth and fifth years. A small minority is made up of first and second years. Make of that what you will. I think it's interesting. So, the events poll. Oh, I've got to refresh. It hates this for some reason. It just doesn't give me the names of the events. There we go. Okay. So I'll briefly explain how this works then. Blue is, I don't know what this event is. Red is, I actively think we should not be doing this event. Yellow is, it's a good event, but I'm not fussed about doing it personally, but we should still do it. Green is, sign me up. Yes.
Green is, we have signed you up for next year. It will speed up the process considerably.
You have now been all put into sorting chats and. Right, can we all see that?
Yeah.
Lovely. So, interesting thing to note: bust shows are much of a muchness between people thinking they're good and people liking to do them. Not really anyone saying they don't want we shouldn't do them, which is good. Bosom shows are generally more positive, more people want to do them, and a higher proportion of people want to do them as well. Particularly the musicals, with obviously 26 people out of 29 saying they like doing musicals. I think it's quite good.
Not they like doing musicals.
That's a different poll next time.
That'll be 29 out of 29.
So we've got body sock shows. There, I'm going to call the bust demographic. They've got about an even split between good show but not fussed and sign me up. Culturals. We've got our first block of red here, but more interestingly, we've got an overwhelming majority of orange, which clearly shows that most people in society think they're a good event to do, but no one actually wants to do them. Sorry?
We use them as a training opportunity.
Exactly. Interestingly, some people don't know what a cultural is. Or a body sock show. Quick quips is a much higher percentage. I'm trying not to spoil the rest of them. Quite a high percentage of people saying we should be actively turning down quip shows. An even higher amount saying that they're good, but again, very few people saying they actually want to partake in these shows. Perhaps something to review next year. Chaos Recycles, I would put in a fairly similar camp as the Culturals, which I never thought I'd say. A lot of people don't know what they are. I reckon this is partly due because they've been sort of shuffled around and we've not really done many this year. But again, lots of people saying good events, not many people wanting to do them. Whole Sock, 100% the same. Student talks, exactly the same. So this is like TEDx and that kind of thing. Exactly the same camp of good events, no one wants to do. What are you looking at?
Nothing.
I've seen exactly what you've just noticed, yeah.
We've got external shows, suddenly much more positive. Apparently external OCIA Edge Arts things are very good. Few people don't know what they are, but generally not that negative. I'm quite pleased about it. Show in a week, everyone knows what it is. Yes, we've done something right. No one thinks we shouldn't do them. Most people think it's a really good experience. People like to do them. I'd hope, I haven't reviewed it, but I'd hope that some of the freshers have voted in that, not just all the old gits. But overall, I'd say Show Week is clearly still a valuable experience. Sock Showcase, a very interesting mix. Most people don't know what they are, partly because we haven't done one this year. And then a good mixture between good events and people wanting to do them. Now, these are the good ones. I would describe this as, this brings back to your question, Simon, of these are the big exciting events with lots of toys. I'd say the bars reflect that.
How many people
This
are in
guy,
that? Yeah.
not impressed. Blues Awards, again, really positive. So this is a full corporate one in town. Quite a few people don't know what it is, but I suspect that's because it's something we've only been doing for 3 years and happens once a year. So I'm not too surprised. Score. Now this, war.
Right.
I'm not happy about this. Majority of people agree that score's a really good thing. And I'm pretty sure Joe and Jamie just filled this thing out 4 times each. Kailas, interestingly, more popular than score.
Which is stupid.
Which, well, the sign-ups do not reflect that. But overall, most people saying they're good. Some people, presumably the club trained people, say, yeah, they're good, sign me up. Trampolining. I would describe this as predominantly... Oh, I didn't have the video ready. Sorry, I've already used it once today. No.
No, it's stuff to do.
We've got to move on. Trampolining I would describe as overwhelmingly negative and we should drop this immediately. That's the view of the society. This will certainly be an exciting discussion for the PM to have next year, whoever he or she may be.
He or she is too. I was going to say that's too different.
One is always an option. I'm joking. Rag Week. Another one. Most people don't know what it is because they haven't actually ran it for the past 2 years because they can't organise a piss up in a brewery. Like Alex Joseph.
I could.
An equal mixture says we really shouldn't do these events and they're alright. I think that's probably a fair summation of Rag Week. Rag Take Me Out, however, much more popular. People saying it's a good event. I think it would be nice to see it again this year. I don't know if it's happening.
Rag fashion shows.
No, because they kept losing money because they're idiots.
Cheesy Sock.
Cheesy Sock. Great event. No one wants to crew it. Mostly because everyone's getting drunk.
Yeah.
Same again for small SU events. A lot of people saying we should, I suspect this bar is primarily we should probably do things for the SU. Interestingly, 3 people said they'd actually want to do this event. Small dry hire, again, one of the higher negative things. So this covers things like 3 bits of deck somewhere, should we hire out, I don't know, should we hire, I can't remember what even this is. It's mostly small bits of deck and that kind of thing. I suspect the overwhelming negative part here is because I mentioned deck. I suspect if I mentioned like 2 source 4s, it would be really positive. So that's probably something to think about. Small Gig in the Box on Parade. Huge people saying good event. 1 person saying they want to do it. Whoever you are, thank you very much.
We've signed you up.
Forever. Power events. So this covers things like Refresh Fair and Commercial Fair. Looks pretty negative, fairly neutral. Potentially something we should review looking at, or perhaps see if we can change the timings of, more importantly, particularly things like Commercial Fair where we've laid out power at 3 in the morning. Less fun. Large external event. Again, overwhelmingly positive, nearly in the same league as Russia's Week and that kind of thing. Generally, really positive event. We're very much looking to do it again next year. I think they're very much looking for us to do it again next year. So overall, very positive. TBR launch. Lots of people wanting to do this despite being in the middle of exam season. Not really anyone saying we shouldn't do it. Jack, is this all you?
I'm not sure if that's more principle or...
Don't know what you're talking about.
So a few people don't really know what that is. Again, it's once a year right at the very end of the middle of exams. I'm not really surprised, but glad to see people are still enjoying the corporate, even where they might not necessarily have much creative input.
Tell me and I'll send it up for you.
Platinum Ballroom, I'd put it in the bust camp of pretty middle of the road. Socks Ball, again, more positive, which is nice. Music Sock Open Mic Nights are very, very balanced. It's a sound joke. Non-SU corporate, so this is things like clavering corporate gigs.
This is corporate, but you get money.
This is corporate, but it's not the SU, so we actually get paid more, which is nice. Fancy uplighters, black shirt, all the good stuff. Seems to be pretty popular. I'm quite happy that's there. Platform. I describe this as quite negative, but interesting. We might be one to look at next year, given the apparent infinite money they had this year.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
They spent over £1,000 on it this year, and we got 0 last year.
Because they paid me a lot of money.
Upchuck and Activities Awards. Upchuck looks like a really good fun show. I thoroughly agree. I love the show.
Sarah definitely agrees.
And Activities Awards, pretty positive, although I don't know if this is mostly people getting drunk there or actually crewing it. It's a very different experience. Cool. I hope you've got some things to think about there. I'll send all of these round probably tomorrow so you can have a further look if you like. I'm going to get rid of all of that, don't know. Venues then. It's exactly the same thing. Red is we hate it, yellow is I'd rather avoid it, green is I like this venue, and purple is I want to work in this venue. This is great. So, the alt, I'd say, is overwhelmingly positive. It's the most positive event venue we have, and I think that really says a lot about how we've put effort into the alt as a thing. Western, slightly less positive, but overall still really strong. Ensemble room, either no one knows what it is, which is fair enough. We do one event in there a year on average, and a lot of people saying they don't really like it. I suspect it's partly due to the lack of install and the fact you have to take everything up the lift. Founders Hall, very positive. Not a preferred venue, not an ideal one, but overall, nothing negative about it. University Hall. I think I know where these years came from.
At least one of those is me.
It's now, for anyone who doesn't know, it's Backstage policy that we do not do shows in Uni Hall. There are some extreme circumstances where we look at it. But generally, this sells everything, really. It's not a good place to work. The Tub. Woo. Pretty decent venue.
Cool.
I'll be strobing at the Tub.
We can't strobe at the Tub on
It's a Wednesday.
Well, then I guess it's avoided at all costs. Plug, exactly the same. I mean, it's basically the same room. Parade. Most people say it's alright, but not great. I think that's probably sums it up pretty well. The Mission Theatre. No one knows what this is. But it's a very interesting mixture between brilliant and not great. I suspect that's probably depending on how you view standing rigs and the Strand 300.
And if you've ever worked in the museum.
Exactly. The museum at Bath at work. Interestingly,
How is that not positive?
I love it.
no one thinks it's preferred though.
I don't think it's perfect, but I like it.
So very few people actually say they don't like it. A lot of people don't really know what it is, but it's actually, on average, I'd say it's a 60% venue. That's what I would describe it as. The brew house, no one knows what it is because we haven't done an event. We did one event there last year, and that's about it.
Sorry, just a quick interjection from the live stream. Someone would like to highlight that someone doesn't know what parade is.
Two people don't know what parade is.
It's that long piece of path along the
It's just most of campus. Just in case you don't.
People interpret this differently.
They may have thought as a place to do events.
I mean, it's like on some of these things, yeah, I know what it is, but if I haven't done an event there, I don't know because I haven't had the experience.
That's reasonable. I think in the comments a lot of people put the same thing, Alex. Travels and Rooms, I'd say I'd say it's a solid 60% venue. Pretty positive. 65. There's two preferred people, but it's all right. Assembly Rooms, really positive actually. A lot of people don't know what it is because we only do 2 events in there a year. But I'd say really positive. And Blues Awards, and there's usually another one. But I'd say quite a positive thing.
There is PGA Ball if anyone wants to attend.
There you go. Guildhall, again, quite a few people don't really know it. We're at the point where we're doing 2 to 3 Guildhall events a year, which actually I really like. I think it's a great venue to work in. And if you ever get to attend it, Sarah is lovely, and she is the antithesis of Jenny. She is everything that Jenny should be. Wickham Social Club. Nobody knows where it is, and everyone hates it. I think it's because of the stairs, I'll be honest. The stairs and the complete lack of any kind of access. And the STV, reasonably positive. I suspect a lot of this is trampolining, not Lego. I suspect this is Lego, this is trampolining.
It was interesting looking at the comments that actually there were quite a few people who said, yeah, it's bad for trampolining, but actually for something like Freshers Week, it might be quite useful. Yeah. And so there's a real split opinion on that.
I don't want to go into too much more detail there. I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to send out these results if people want to have a look at them closer. I suspect it'll be quite an interesting insight into how we run next year's events. Cool. Jamie.
Hustings.
Are we going to have a break first?
We will have
10 minutes?
Guys, we've got 10 minutes. Everyone reconvene here at 15:15.
By the way, there's cake. Eat the cake. All the cake.
Set a 10 minutes.
No. You're a fuck. Use the implements given to you.
We have a country side now.
And genius.
I just did that in front of the camera.
I need to pay for
Is that quotation marks?
Yeah, I'll get my phone.
That's some of the sun there.
I am going to go by...
Not so fatty.
I was hoping you said alcohol.
Talking for chairs, a really dry throat. Horrible.
That's why I bought this.
Fucking hell, Sam.
I was looking at what the fuck they had Diet Coke on there.
He thought he might get thirsty. So he's bought Co-op owned Diet Cola.
Yeah, 65p.
I went to the bar with some.
Extremely low value. Did the shopper in the prison? No. Oh, how am I supposed to re-rinse?
I was going to guess Blood Coke.
Vegan yes. I wish I could.
That's the vegan.
Only Mary.
How does it baby contain eggs?
Because they don't know how well it makes that.
There's a guy who makes eggs nearby.
Depends, is it egg
If you can eat some homemade chickens, homeopathy.
Who says homeopathy? I'll buy
Yeah. I was trying to keep it off the table.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, your fault when you try to juggle.
I think money off to be an adult.
Not mine.
Okay.
We got to make a mark something more. What's this?
Everybody run it.
A long time.
2008.
Remember our iPads we could use I'm still thinking to it.
I'm terrible.
But it'll keep you occupied, like people ramble.
Yeah, I should be back. I won't be
I'm terrible.
I'm actually Ben.
Just mix all fun stuff together.
So I don't know
I did try to work. It's very the whole day today. Baby up and down and about 10 seconds cycle. No, it is.
The ambient light is
supposed to be not sensitive, but I suspect it might actually be that. When told it's not sensitive.
Yeah, in my office, everyone tends to sit quite still, so every now and again, like after 5 you actually get assessed by your placements, etc. It's not many people take it, but you can do
Certainly on Mac end, there's a guy called Chris Barnes.
It's not free.
said no sound at all.
Don't worry, I've sorted it. It was a mic issue.
Oh, so it's your fault.
Seems off-putting if I trick.
Good, right. Sorry.
Society or service?
Fundamentally society, because we are a group of people who want to have fun and want to get new skills and want to spend time together and do events. It is true that we incorporate some services into what we do, but that doesn't mean that we should feel obligated to do them. We just, as a side effect of what we do a lot of services for the SU and societies and external people. But I think as a priority, we need to look at where we are as a society and how we move forward to make sure our membership is happy and we do the right kinds of events for the society.
Okay, any follow-up from the floor? How will you ensure that you communicate in a friendly and approachable way with the membership, particularly freshers, to avoid people feeling like they can't talk to you about problems?
I mean, I think it's true that I can be a bit snappy, but I think I've gotten a lot better at that. And I think the main thing is making sure that people know I'm there and know I'm at a point of that everyone can come and talk to me and making myself open for conversation. And I think it's about taking a measured response to anything that anyone comes to communicate with about, and about conveying both myself and society as a friendly group and person.
Okay. Any follow-up from the floor? Another old chestnut. How well do we fit within the SU's society structure, and would we be better moving elsewhere within the SU? What conditions would you put on us moving elsewhere?
I mean, essentially, a good chunk of that comes back to the first question of society or service, and balancing off the fact that we are society. It means that we benefit a lot from being under that area of the SU. We get support from staff, we get funding from the activities office, we get sort of a closeness with other societies from that, I think. That said, it's true that we're a bit of an awkward fit. We spend far too much money, we do things our own way a lot of the time, and we have a very different relationship with a lot of the SU staff than other societies. So it's true that there are ways in which we could fit elsewhere. I think the main thing in terms of if we were to move out of it, and I know that Henry and Will have both had this conversation with the SU, is making sure that we can still support our membership and it doesn't lose that element of fun and enjoyability and the ability to do everything that we do in the same way we do now from a society perspective, even if it changes in the way we do admin or where we sit within the SU.
Okay, any questions from the floor? Henry?
You didn't actually answer the question. Do you think we fit, or should we move somewhere else?
I mean, I think I did somewhat in a rambly way, but the question is sort of. The answer is sort of, sorry.
So let's say we do move. Where do you see us moving to? Who is our direct manager then?
I mean, I object to the direct manager because that puts us as a business. But yes, I see what you mean. I mean, I know there's been ideas floated around for putting us under Mike. I know that there are other sort of departments in the SU where we might fit better, but to be honest, I don't claim to know the SU well enough at the minute to be able to answer that definitively.
Okay, any new questions from the floor? Angel?
What do you think the biggest challenge facing us next year is, and what do you see yourself doing to tackle it?
I mean, I think it's sort of what we've had large discussions about here and otherwise this year in terms of how we change to adapt to the changes that we see in a membership and what they want to do. So that things like taking the event survey that was done and making sure that we apply that and make sure that if there's an event that the society doesn't want to be supporting, we ask ourselves, well, why would we support it? And if we want to continue supporting, make sure there's a really good reason for it. And make sure that we kind of fill in that gap that we saw between events people think are good in principle and events people actually want to do. And we highlight which ones actually benefit us. And make sure that we don't take on too much for our membership, basically.
Okay. Any more from the floor? Follow-up questions?
Go on.
Go on, Chris.
In the event of conflict between members on an event you are calling, how would you, as chair of the society, help the TEM to resolve that without being too invested in your own personal side?
I mean, I think it would depend on the circumstances, because obviously on an event, if we're all doing things, I may very well be invested, and if I am, I might not be the best person to resolve it, and might want to go to someone like the PM. That said, if I did feel that I could take an objective view of it because I wasn't that involved in it, I think it would be about making sure that people sort of had a minute to calm down and really talk through the issue and make sure that if it was a personal issue, people didn't just start throwing random jabs at each other and try to get along, or found a way to sort of separate themselves, even if that means coming off the event such that they're still comfortable as people. And if it's any sort of other general technical issue on the event, making sure that there's always a reason for that kind of issue, there's always a way to resolve it, even if it's not. So without coming to argument, really, if it needs to be. It's just about talking it out.
Okay, any follow-ups? Go on then, Henry.
I haven't got a follow-up.
A new question. Yeah, go for it.
So, as chair, you directly oversee all aspects of the running of the society.
Yeah.
Which means that you get to vote on a lot of things in meetings. You have casting votes. Would you ever use it?
I mean, obviously, we are now an 8-person committee, theoretically. And that means that we might very well have ties when it comes to voting. I think that's the only circumstance where I'd really feel the need to use that. But then, if we do come to that sort of situation, it really means that the issue probably merits further discussion rather than immediately powering through it with a vote.
Okay. Any more follow-ups? Any new questions from the floor? I'll do a couple more from my sheet then. What one thing do you believe is the worst part of Backstage, and how will you improve it?
I think people get stressed a lot in Backstage, and that's part of the fact that people are trying to balance a lot of things in general at uni. And I think it's part of the fact that a lot of people are working very closely together in sort of high stress situations, especially on events where there's time constraints, or if we have other issues with clients or budget or that kind of thing. And so it's about finding ways to make sure that we take on events that are good for the membership and that they won't add to that, and we make sure that we work in a way that doesn't add to that, so that we have good breaks and rider and don't take on crazy ridiculous hours when we really shouldn't be. And I think that will go a long way towards resolving a lot of issues within the crew and making sure that people are happy and healthy.
Okay. Any follow-ups on that? Any new questions?
Nothing useful from the live stream.
I've noticed.
unless we think, would you rather fight a horse-sized duck or a duck-sized horse?
I'll take the duck-sized horse.
Okay. Duck-sized horse it is. Last one from the sheet. How long should a rig be for an event in the theatre, and why?
God, what event?
An event.
An event? Any event?
That's the question I've got.
Okay. I mean, is that even a question that anyone thinks doesn't have more than one answer? As long as it needs, essentially. I mean, it's about looking at the technical requirements. Do people want a lot of? Are there a lot? Sorry. Are there a lot of departments involved? Are there pressures in terms of clashes of who can rig when? Is it about making sure, like, it's about taking up the appropriate amount of time for the availability in the theatre? That's about looking at how we can meet requirements. So if someone just wants a simple show in 3 colours and a mic, we don't need 3 days to rig it. We need an evening, maybe 2 at a push. But if it's, say, a musical where we're trying to get set and a band in and mics and a large lighting rig, that's going to need a couple more. I'd say we'd have to be reasonable. Probably on the upwards level for a very large show, 3 days.
Okay. And any questions from the floor? Any follow-ups? Go for it.
How do you ensure that freshers feel welcomed next year, and how do you ensure that we then retain a bigger proportion of the freshers to do that?
I think it's about making sure that everyone is aware that they have opportunities to do different things in society, and that we do put on socials, we are a friendly lot, and we make sure we're welcoming on that level initially. And then that we offer them whatever training they want and how much they need to make sure they're comfortable wanting to do events, wanting to do larger events, whether that's from attending training sessions or having a mentor or just throwing them in the deep end. And if they're that kind of person that likes that, they'll just figure it out and do it, but obviously it's a specific type of person. So yeah, it's about making sure that they know that we can do a lot to work with them. It's not about just fitting them into whatever a strict structure of what we do.
Okay. Any more for any more? Okay, thanks very much, Claire.
Lovely.
Can I next please have the candidate for secretary?
I'll write my own minutes from the recording of the thing. Hello, Tim.
What you said.
What?
What you could remember what you said.
Right, so we shall start with your 1-minute speech.
Oh, I forgot
that. Starting now.
I'm a big fan of improvised speeches. As such, I feel like I really know. So, I've been secretary this year. I've learned an awful lot about the role, and I think that some of the things I've not done very well this year I can only improve upon next year. I've worked really hard on fighting for the things that you don't necessarily think about. For me, that's been getting our office refurbed. I think that it's silly that every other group along this corridor has had that support from ESU and we have not, even though it might seem a bit trivial. Next year, things I would do differently will be working with the chair to ensure our fresher retention, try and make sure that our communication is a little bit better. We've had some issues this year. And really just keep working on all of the admins.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
So, start with some questions from the sheets. Should the secretary go to every regular meeting members of committee have to minutes? There's a lot of M's in that one.
So what we did this year is I went to pretty much every Edge committee and crew meeting, and then the only person who really had other meetings was Henry as chair, and between the two of us we decided whether it was necessary or not. So there were a couple of AV meetings where we felt it was in our interest to have what they say recorded down on paper, so then when they say we can't use their sound desk, we say you said we could. I think it's working with the committee who will decide whether it's necessary or not. But I think the core meetings, of course. Yeah.
Any follow-ups on that? Okay, how can we incentivise members not to make a mess in the office?
A combination of SU sanctioned punishments such as stoning.
Does that count if we thrown at someone?
So ultimately it is our space, it's not my space. I'd like to think that
my space is dead.
That's true. The number one driver for keeping the office tidy will always be guilt and peer pressure. There's not really much else we can do, to be honest. I'm hoping that with the office refurbishment, there'll be more space, which will help reduce some of the clutter that's in there. 'Cause it doesn't really help, like there's not space to put stuff. People need to be decent. That's not my problem if you can't be tidy.
Okay. Follow-up?
Apologies.
Do you think that the office is appropriate to be used as a social space? And if not, then can you suggest?
I think that the office is appropriate to be used as a social space, provided that there is no pressing need for it to be used for work and it is kept tidy. I think if you ask anyone that question, most people would probably agree. We are lucky to have it as a resource and to have it as a space. I know many people rely on it for, they just need to do a quick bit of coursework, whatever. I think that's only fair. Everyone in the society does an immense amount of work for the SU. I think it's only fair they get that as a little perk. However, if it's being used for work, it's being used for work. Don't spill beer. Actually, we're getting a new carpet, didn't I?
Any more follow-ups? Yeah.
Spill beer when the new carpet's in.
Put a tarp down.
I had a nice hardwood floor.
I did suggest paneling and they laughed at me.
Any more follow-ups? Okay. Which regular meeting do you view as the most important to attend and minutes?
After this year, I would say committee meeting, and I hope that the committee members will nod their heads here, because we have found that having a record of actions and things that have happened in committee meetings proved to be very useful when it comes to holding people accountable. Compare that to crew meeting. To be honest, I can probably write the crew meeting minutes ahead of time because it's just the stuff from a diary. In fact, sometimes I do. And we always feed back anything from the edge meeting and crew meeting anyway for people who don't read the edge minutes. So, and committee meeting.
Follow-ups? How would you propose keeping more freshers interested early on when you are the main point of contact they have for a period of time?
So, I put quite a lot of effort in this year with some of the freshers, not all of them. I probably wish I had a little bit more. It's very difficult when you've got a good like 70 people signing up. You can only do so much to keep all of their attention. What I've been doing throughout the year is trying to get to know freshers who are probably going to hang about and try and invest my time in them. When I was a fresher, that's what the committee at the time did. It made a massive difference. That's the key driver. We've actually had a couple of people join the society late this year, and sometimes that can feel a bit polarising, especially if you have many skills. So we've got a member who's not here tonight who hadn't done much before, so really important to take them to one side, like, right, what do you enjoy? Okay, you're a bit behind everyone else, how can we still get you integrated into society? And yeah, I think that's the way forward.
Okay.
I don't know if I directly answered the question or not.
some.
Okay.
Does anyone have any follow-ups? They're clearly happy with the answer you gave. There has been some confusion this year over where crew meeting is
Yes.
each week.
There has.
What do you propose to reduce this confusion?
Big signs.
Weekly protests outside the timetabling office.
Throw biscuits.
The timetabling software is the biggest joke in all of campus. This has been the reason. No, so the reason we've had issues has been we used to have it here. This room is now reserved for staff use only until 7 o'clock in the evening, for whatever reason. It's in VSU. The only issue we've had with crew meeting it was only for 2 weeks. We were in a different room in 4 East because special lectures had been booked in, and lectures take priority. Every Wednesday I send a crew meeting reminder. I actually did book all the rooms for basically the entire year in advance in September, so that I'll do the same again because it means we know what's going on and we keep it regular. It's actually the same for committee meetings as well. We'll try and keep that in the same place and get our booked ahead of time.
Okay, any follow-ups? Last question from the sheet, then we'll have some questions from the floor. What do you feel is the most important improvement we can make to the office?
So, we've thought about this already. What we will be doing is removing a lot of the drawers because most of them are now empty. So we threw out a serious amount of rubbish over OSB. So a lot of those drawers, the filing cabinet is basically empty. We don't really need it anymore. So a lot of that will be going, and then we'll be replacing the space that was there with more desk space. A lot of people use the office with their laptops now. Less people tend to use the desktop computers. So we'll be the new desk we're putting in are slightly shallower in depth, so that people can use their laptops. So there's a little bit more workspace. It's just making the space more usable. That's what it's for. It's there to be used. That's pretty obvious. So yeah, we'll be creating more space. Hopefully that makes it better.
Any follow-ups to that point? Any new questions from the floor? Go for it, Angel.
One of the things that the Secretary's down on the Constitution is doing is being webmaster.
Yes.
Obviously we've had a huge contribution from Ben Jones in maintaining and creating the new version that we've had. Is there a plan to hand that over to you now that he's graduating, or is he going to maintain that?
So I've not directly discussed this with Ben yet because I was going to discuss it when he graduated before. The plan that I've always had, because I thought it was going to happen this year, is there will be I'm going to try and get a little working group together of people who are interested. If people are interested already, there is the GitHub site for the website does have a lot of instructions on how you can set up your own development environment. So the plan is to get people together to do that, and let the society maintain the society's website. Secretary will remain as webmaster, so even though Ben's been doing a lot of work this year, I've been working alongside him and getting certain bits of content up, all the boring bits like privacy policy, stuff that no one's ever going to read. So yeah, the plan is to get interested people together. A lot of the groundwork for that is already there and ready to go.
Is that a follow-up from Tom or a new question?
What I was going to say is, this year we've had issues holding committee members to deadlines agreed in committee meetings. Do you think that 1 month is an appropriate period for committee meetings, or do you think we would benefit from more frequent meetings in terms of keeping everyone more up to date, tracking issues more?
That's a good question. I think that committee already communicate quite a lot. When you consider the recent committee meetings that we've had, a lot of the points tend to get glossed over because they're in progress or they're quite long-standing points, like electrical paperwork, rework, takes months. In terms of holding committee members accountable, I'd like to think that people running for committee are running to commit to themselves to the society, and they hold a certain level of responsibility. If we need to have more frequent meetings to make committee members do their job. That's not a flaw with the schedule of committee meetings. That's a flaw with a committee member. You're here to serve society. It's a role you signed up for. Answer your question?
Yeah.
Yeah, what's saying?
Okay. Any follow-ups to that?
In regards to when we get a new decorated office rolling on,
Yes.
do you have any plans to make it a more backstage customised venue? Sort of
In what? Not having events in the office.
In what way?
Or even like photographs and stuff like that, or will you police the tax to a minimum?
The reason loads of photos came down was because they were of people no one knew they were, and it ruined the wall. And we just wanted to see what it looked like for estates to come round. I think we want to make sure that our office has a bit of charm to it, i.e. see the Christmas lights. No one else in the SU corridor had our Christmas lights. We need to see what it looks like. I can't see it being a problem putting stuff on the wall, but likewise we don't want to have a new wall and then for us to ruin it with stuff.
Maybe the Edge Arts community.
The only reason we cleaned a lot of the stuff out was because there was just a lot of junk and we just wanted to see what it was like. Yes, it's everyone's office, so we'll decide what we're going to do it. Chris?
Hey, Chris?
In regards to the office, like the stuff that ends up all over the walls over the years,
yeah.
Do you feel that the office should reflect the history of the society, or should it be more about the current members?
This is the most bizarre question.
In regards to your comment, the photographs were of people nobody knew. But as an associate, if I wandered into the office, I could see the progression of the society through the years.
Sure.
So I could see people who were who I'd known as freshers, and then I saw them come through as graduates and associates. Is it important for the office to reflect the history of the society, or should those photographs be, and other memorabilia in the office, be updated every year or so to reflect the current membership rather than our history?
Not a lie, I haven't prepared an answer to this. I'll answer this really quickly because we want to move things on. So we have things like we have the awards shelf. Obviously that will get updated. I think we play by ear. Like, it's not a mausoleum, but at the same time, it's like we just got to keep it fresh. I would say if anyone has really strong feelings about it, we can have a office memorial, a working group for office decoration, as it's come up twice this evening. I'm not going to waste your time answering that in any more detail.
Okay.
As long as you're satisfied with my response.
Yeah, go on then.
You can't vote.
Yeah. Any more from the floor? Any questions?
Old person in the corner.
No, lovely. Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, candidates for treasurer, please.
Quickly while we change over, how many people actually read Edge minutes out of interest? Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, we've got 12%.
So I've got to lower the camera a bit.
Okay, your 1 minute speech starts now.
I'm Kate, if you don't know me already, which I think everyone does, freshers? I don't know, I've seen you a few times. Anyway, I think, well, I want to be treasurer because I've been a member of the society since I was a fresher, and it's been a big part of my life at uni. And I think that I would make a good treasurer because I'm organised, I've managed to manage Lego, so I think numbers who don't not reply to my emails should be okay. Lego was also the highest earning event we've had for a long time, or at least anyone
I've spoken to camera member, so I've got that going for me as well. Otherwise, yeah, I just think I'll keep on top of everything. I'm fairly reliable. And yeah, that's me.
Okay. Right. Do you feel there is a better solution to how Backstage tracks its money, and if so, do you believe this solution is achievable?
From what I understand of the system that exists, it's worked for quite a long time, although I think there could be better management of Thames budgets and we need a better system in place so that the treasurer is more aware of that as it's going on, rather than just halfway near the end of the event, or when we come and find we've spent far too much money to meet what budget we were set. I think yeah, the treasurer needs to be more actively involved in helping Thames, new Thames, old Thames, experienced Thames, manage the budgets while they're doing the events.
Follow-ups from the floor? Angel?
To follow on from that, we've had a lot of issues this year, at least in my mind particularly, with other societies' perception of how they can set budgets. A couple of shows now we've had a sort of bid for our budget type system, which has just made the event more stressful for everyone. Do you think that other societies' budgets for the events they give us is something Backstage treasurer should be involved in?
I think Backstage should be involved in it, in a sense to say, well, when we did a similar event to this, we spent this amount of money, this should be the amount of money you expect budget. If you can't afford that, then we will attempt to do as much as we can for the money you give us, they give us, and they should be aware that with the sacrificing money, they sacrifice kit and sacrifice the amount of time we have to spend on that, for example.
Any more on that one?
Do you think the treasurer should be more of an informative role, or do you think the treasurer should take more of a decision-making role in terms of where we actually spend money in the end?
I mean, the treasurer should only have a say in as much as the treasurer knows what money the society has. If we're talking about, are we talking about in the society in general, or in events?
In society, or on things like, for example, production charges, equipment charges, or just what we buy as a society.
Production charges, we're fairly set on what we spend on that. It's been up for discussion this year, I know, and it does need to be discussed with the committee and the society, I think. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Any follow-ups? Okay. Which current budget is most deserving of an increase in allocation? So, for reference, main budgets are equipment, maintenance and consumables, secretary and training.
So that was, where should we be allocating?
Which is most deserving of an increase in allocation?
Well, without facts and figures to hand, I couldn't answer that question exactly, but it's deserving is possibly the wrong word. It's where the money needs to be, so where there is demand for it. So if we have a lot of equipment that needs maintenance, then equipment and maintenance will put more money towards equipment and maintenance. If we are missing something in one of the departments, so lighting, sound, power, etc., then we look at spending more money in those departments. But it will be hugely dependent on where the demand is.
Henrik?
So, based on this idea of more of a fluid allocation, would you propose a system whereby as often on events. You allocate a much smaller budget to each committee member on the basis that if they need more, they can ask for more. And how would you justify that sort of fluidity on how much overall people have to bid against each other for, essentially?
So the budgets will be allocated based on previous years, so we know approximately how much each department will want to spend on average. There are always the big purchases and things like that, and we've got to base that on demand. How recently that department was had a big spend. So Sound have had a huge spend recently, lighting with the new slim pars, for example. With bidding, it's kind of, it's hard to say without a example. Yeah.
Okay. Any follow-ups on that? Okay, last question from the sheets. How can you reassure me that my yellow form will be processed quick enough and not forgotten at any point in its trip to the finance office?
Well, as any treasurer can, I can try and prove to you that I'm a reliable person who will not lose your yellow form, and will process it efficiently. I don't know what more I can say on that matter.
Okay, any follow-up from the floor? Angel?
It's more of a suggestion. Baseball bats are good for such sometimes necessary.
Okay, any new questions?
Do you think that, as being in societies, do you think that that limits us in terms of what we can do in terms of the treasurer side of things? For example, having to conform to